This is the Apex Legends Global Series, where the best Apex Legends competitors gather together to take their shot at playing for glory, fame, and bragging rights. When we last met for Online Tournament 4, a new team emerged to challenge the big names in the game. Myth, a team made up entirely of unsigned Apex Legends amateurs, showed that they had what it takes to hoist the trophy, beating out a second-place Alliance by 11 points. Notching 23 kills and 4 top 5 finishes on the day sealed the deal for this team of former unknowns. But today, the dropships are loading up with more challengers, all vying to wipe the champion squad and seize the title spot. Who will get the most kills, rack up the most points, deliver the most damage, and ascend to the top? It's time to find out which teams are going to surprise us. Who will pull out those devious, notorious rat strats? Who is going to outshoot, outthink, and outplay their rivals? Who's pushing with R99s and PKs? And who's sitting back with a scout? Ready up and settle in. Welcome to the Apex Legends Global Series.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Apex Legends Global Series. That's right, where we bring you the competitive side of Apex during these great and interesting times where, of course, people are staying at home and playing at home, as we like to say at EA. But let's get into some introductions and get the show on the road. My name is Rainday. I'll be hosting for this side of Europe. And, of course, we have a whole other broadcast coming up in North America we'll talk about in a second. But today I'm joined by the lovely Hotsick as well. My man, how you feeling today, man? Excited for another online tournament?
I'm excited for the sophomore debut. You know, I had a lot of fun last time. Learned a lot, and I'm just excited to have a good day.
I mean, the sophomore album, they usually say it's the sophomore slump, but for me, I feel like you're going to give a better performance than you did last week. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. Always good to have a professional Apex Legends coach and, of course, former player on the broadcast. You guys will see more and more of that as we get into the day. And I guess to talk about the day, let's get into what you can expect to see. The schedule coming up right in front of you. It's one of those that gives you a clear break. So if you're one of those people like, I need to get some lunch, I need a little bit of time before the nonstop action continues, well, we got that for you. 9:45 a.m. we're kicking off Europe, and then later on in the day at 5:45 p.m. that's Pacific time, like San Francisco, west coast of the United States, we'll start North America. 2 different regions, and honestly, the thing I like about this Hotsick is that you show up at different times. You're kind of going to see some different play styles between what both of these regions prioritize as far as Apex Legends.
Absolutely. During the European region, you can absolutely get to see some really crazy end games because they typically all tend to play for late game positioning. So you'll see it's not uncommon to see the 5th zone and still see like 12 teams up. Meanwhile, over on the NA side, you're very likely to just see some high action, very high kill count games from whatever team ends up winning it.
And I think that's what makes it so interesting, right? When you look at how varied these teams and these players specifically, and we'll get into that in depth as we kind of lead into the show and before we get into game one, how differently they take these games. And each moment kind of plays to certain European or North American strategies. And today we're going to focus on Europe as we look at the road to the finals. Of course, you see these teams to get here, they ended up playing 3 rounds to reach these finals. 171 teams have been eliminated thus far, which means you got to go through the gauntlet to be the last 20. We've seen some great Twitter clips from people making that top 20, the elation that they feel after it. Really excited to see these people perform. And of course, right now we are at that final moment where, watch. Usually on a Monday, today it's on a Sunday. But Hotsick, having kind of been through this process, what's it like to make that final, go through the gauntlet of playing through all those teams to finally be in the top 20?
I mean, it's crazy. It almost feels like the top 20 isn't enough to highlight just how many amazing teams there are on both regions. But it's wild. Hats off to all the people that got there, but a big heartfelt, keep on pushing to all the guys that didn't get there. There's a lot of emotions all over Twitch last night from all the teams that didn't make it. So don't stop grinding, keep pushing, boys.
It's a good message, man. I mean, I think part of it is that, losses, they don't signify the end of the journey unless, you decide it to be, right? I mean, if this is just something that you want to stop at, sure, but this could be a big learning and a big launch pad for, I think, a lot of these teams to figure out what might have not worked, what they can do to bring it in for next time. And of course, that leads us to what these guys are all playing for as well, considering the fact that there is prizing on the line for these teams, Hotzik. And when you look at the money involved, I mean, it's not the same that we would have seen if we were in a LAN. I mean, imagine, we're in Paris or in Bucharest. We can't do that because of some of these issues around the world. We're being respectful for that, but there's still a chance to earn some prizing, as you guys can see on the screen right now.
Absolutely. And it's not realistic to have a massive LAN event every 2 or 3 weeks either. So having these online events, with all things considered in the world happening today, it's definitely worth playing for.
All right, now, I want to talk about something bigger, Hotzik, and give you guys the overview, the regional leaderboards here for Europe, because yes, each tournament will allow you to earn points, and you'll be able to gain more points the better you place throughout all of these tournaments. So consistency is the key. It is a marathon, but I can't help but think that these points, I'm sorry, man, I've been rewatching Harry Potter. I have a Harry Potter coffee cup right now. I'm thinking 10 points to Gryffindor, 10 points to Slytherin. I'm like, these teams really understand the value of what these points could mean, because when lands do come back, when things do happen, this could influence how you're invited, the placements, the seedings that you have. It has a bigger overall play when you look at it in the long perspective.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really understand the ALGS point concept, and to simplify it, it's basically the more points you have, the higher chance you have of getting just straight up invited to major events. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is very interesting from the EU perspective, because it's so tight. So many teams are close. It's still, all these teams still need to make sure they're constantly qualifying and they're constantly playing out of their minds, not just for in the tournament that they are specifically in at the moment, but for the bigger picture as well down the road.
Any of these teams as well kind of come to mind, Hotzik? I know we were just talking a little bit here about what these teams have accumulated and accomplished so far throughout their journey in Apex Legends. But as we look into today, what kind of teams, I think, are on your mind as far as performances, or teams that, you may be looking out for to maybe shift the meta or have a strong moment that highlights what they've been doing and the effort they've been putting in behind the scenes today?
Well, in terms of shifting the meta, I think the very obvious one is definitely Alliance and their Caustic. I've been a fan of watching them as much as I don't want them to shift the meta in that way. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword in that part. But there's a lot of really strong teams. We see Navi's going to be in here, and we got a special profile coming up on them as well. Virtus Pro didn't make it into the last one, but they are absolutely one of the top teams in the game, and they're back in this one. Gambit as well has been just extremely consistent, and that's hard to do in the European region, so hats off to them, as well as Ad Hoc Gaming, kind of the same boat. Really waiting for that real pop-off moment from them.
I mean, it's very Game of Thrones-esque. I know a lot of people get triggered at that, didn't like the last season. I'm one of the rare ones who did, unfortunately. Just, I read the books. I kind of just loved no matter what they were showing. But I think, at the end of the day, you look at all of these different teams, they really do each have their own lands, their own stake, their own ability to, given the right kind of flow of a game, given the right type of lobby or landing spot or RNG, they have a chance to win. And that's kind of what makes Europe so fun. There's a bunch of juggernauts all fighting for the same territory. So either game can go either way. But a team that was on there, I think, that is important to talk about is Na'Vi, a team that has been performing well. They've had some ups, but they've also had some downs. And today we're going to make sure to keep an eye on them, and not just them, one of their players in particular, Claus, who had a chance to speak with us during the week and tell us how he's been preparing and what his thoughts are in competing at the highest level of Apex Legends.
As a player, I'm known for a very aggressive style and a very impressive aim. I just know this fact that they're afraid of me. My name is Nikita Marchinsky, I go by Klaus and I play for Na'Vi. I've started playing Quake in 2009 and I was grinding it hardly for 10 years, managed to achieve 2 victories on World Championship. The reason why I like Apex a lot that it's pretty similar to Quake. The game feels awesome, the movement is so good. Nice. So I joined Navi in 2019 and I'm having right now really great experience with Navi. We're just 3 freaks who are having a lot of fun playing Apex, and especially enjoying scrims and tournaments. I'm playing for Watson. Fences are really important in that they provide the possibility to protect big zones in open fields, for example. Я его нокнул. For a few tournaments we were doing several individual mistakes that what made us get in not really high place, but winning next tournament that it's really important. As for me, I didn't play many LAN tournaments, but every LAN tournament I was playing, I was kinda winning, so I'm not expecting anything else but the win. 100 робот золотой. Being one of best teams in EU is crazy because game is hard and there are a lot of great players and everyone is grinding, so being one of best teams in EU is really great. Ой, трое!
I mean, this, we got to mention it. I mean, every LAN he was in, he was kind of winning. I think that just is the line that cements it all. 3 freaks trying to play Apex Legends and showing up. And I think that is the biggest lesson of today. Not just showing up, but I think getting a team of the caliber of Navi to finally have these star-studded performances. Hodzik, do you think today is the day they can claim this OT5 and actually take the win?
I mean, absolutely. They've been looking good. If there's one thing that a lot of Russian and Ukrainian players in Apex exude, it's confidence, and that's obvious in that video right there. Yeah. I'm excited. I've been a big fan of them since the pre-Poland scrims when we played against them, and especially how much they popped off in Poland. So I'm excited to see. I hope they do well.
Yeah, and honestly, I was very excited to see Virtus Pro in the finals again. I think last week you looked at Jay, and he was one of those guys where he actually was again unimpressed with his own performance. I remember him tweeting out something to the effect of, am I always just going to be this mediocre player? Am I always going to find myself in the middle of the pack? When am I going to pop off and have this moment and show how good I know I am? And I think this could be the week. They're definitely putting themselves in the conversation alongside Navi. Alliance, we've obviously looked at a lot. Ad Hoc Gaming, though, they've kind of found themselves in that little range of great showing up consistently, but haven't had that full pop-off day. What do you think about their chances heading into today?
I mean, I'm a big fan of their team, especially in particular. I've talked a lot about them as well. So I think they have the potential to be one of those top teams. It's just a matter of kind of, did they wake up on a good day? And sometimes Battle Royale literally boils down to that, is what teams woke up and had a good day. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I think you bring up an interesting point, and we'll have time to talk about this on the desk, but there's some great things in the game right now. If you guys haven't played Apex Legends, there's a new Battle Armor event, and it's actually given us some great perspective as to what is it like to actually eliminate maybe some of that early drop RNG, make sure everybody has at least a little bit of a P2020 and some shielding. Now it's the Blue Shield level 2, so make sure to check that out in between games or on your free time this weekend. What do you think about that, Hodzik? Do you think that actually just quickly has any impact potentially on pro play or the future of pro play for Apex Legends?
Absolutely. I'm a big advocate. I'm trying to tell as many people as possible to play it as much as possible, because I want at least one version of that put into the game where you start with armor. I think starting with armor, especially my personal one is Evo. Start in with Evo and take it out of the loot pool to make the game just feel overall a little bit better.
And so you have the question of, do I keep my Evo, right? And do I kind of risk leveling this up, or do I find a purple right away and just go for that, but drop the Evo behind? I may not find another one until I win a fight. And if I do get in that fight, I may face somebody who has an Evo already, who's kind of taken the risk and leveled it up before me. I think these are really interesting combos, man. But, we're still going to wait to see. I haven't played the Evo yet. That's out, I think, May 8th, right? I think that's coming out.
Yeah, something like that. But in my head, obviously we haven't played it. We haven't seen it in actual theory, or in practice rather. But I feel like that one will probably feel the best, because the one thing, like, Evo armors are on paper and a fantastic idea. You know, they're supposed to combat the whole battle royales are too campy. There's not enough action. So the whole purpose of them is, hey, let's put this in to get people to at least shoot at people and do
Right.
something. So whereas it's promoting now more of a sniper based meta where people will grab evos, hold down a house with Watson, and then just kind of poke from a distance. It is still a little bit campy and kind of enforcing that. I love the idea of, well, shoot, we didn't get good armors on drop. Our loot was really bad, but if we do enough damage, we have the capability to bring ourselves back in terms of our loot. So I think minimizing the RNG of finding an Evo because how strong they are, being able to go to 125, I think in theory, I think that would be the best way to implement it. Is everybody just starts with Evo, take it out of the base loot pool, make the other loot a little bit better, and then I think it'll feel good, but we'll see.
We'll see. I'm excited we get a chance to play it. And again, if you guys haven't checked out or don't know what we're talking about, Battle Armor event in Apex Legends, make sure to download if you don't have it and also check it out. It's going to give you a great opportunity to see what it's like to drop into a battle royale, especially Apex, and have some armor. And the Evo version will be the final version before Season 5, which you've been getting Loba teasers for throughout the entirety of last week. And it's been really exciting to see. So if you're not on the hype, not on the Loba hype, I don't know where you have been. But of course, getting back to it, guys, this is really those players who know the game so well, so intricately. We talked about Na'Vi. They're going to be competing today. We actually have a tweet from their organization we're going to bring up on your screen in just a moment. It says, today our Apex Legends roster will play the ALGS Online number 5 finals. Now, what's cool about this is Not a Sincere, obviously a great org. I've done a lot of casting with them in former games. They've actually won a world championship that I was casting in a game prior, before I started working with Apex Legends. So a great org. Shout out to those guys. But also the great thing about this is I think if you guys want to be involved, maybe show up on the broadcast. Hashtag ALGS is the way to do it. You could tweet me, you could tweet Hansik, you could tweet just the broadcast in general. Something cool you saw, a nice clip, a play, a shout out, and we might feature you guys on the stream. So make sure to use that when you're watching the games and having a good time. But right now we have a few minutes before we get into game. I want to spend more time talking with Hansik just a little bit about the meta because he mentioned something about snipers. Most of you guys don't get a chance to hear the pro's perspective on it or coach's POV, but you talked about snipers having that kind of synergistic relationship with Evo shields. And I want to talk about specific snipers here since we're going to see patch notes and changes for Season 5 coming up. We talked about the charge rifle kind of having a new place back in the meta because of its effectiveness, the hit scan range. I want to talk about the Sentinel, the new weapon that was introduced that has this interesting charge up mechanic that I feel like most people forgot about with the shield batteries. I want to know what your thoughts are on the Sentinel. What's its place in the meta? What do you think about the shield battery charge? Is there something you would change about that weapon heading into Season 5 before we get into game here?
Yeah. First and foremost, I love the gun, not in terms of like competitive meta, but I just think it's such a fun gun to use. I've always been a fan of like really good feeling bolt action snipers in games, and they nailed it with the Sentinel. It feels good to use. Now, in terms of competitive play, I am of the hot take mindset that I do think it's a little. It's not the first sniper I would pick up, but I wouldn't be opposed to using it if it happened to be in like the building I was in because I think it's a really it does 74 body shot to any low profile characters which run rampant in the meta. So I think rather than it being a big poke weapon, it's more of an opportunistic weapon similar to basically the Kraber. You know, you don't pick up a Kraber in a tournament and then just start poking at people. You use it to find openings when you need to rotate or to stop teams from rotating themselves. And I think the Sentinel fits in very well there as well. Also, in terms of if you see like a big fight happening between two teams in the distance, most players are good enough at gauging, say like they hone in on a single player and they see that they're getting R9 sprayed by two other enemy players. They're pretty good at honing how much health they have. And I think in the Sentinel in the hands of a really good shot can be an easy yoink on that kill for an easy kill point that they didn't even have to risk themselves for. So it's a very niche place in the meta, but I think it does have some use.
Well, I think it's a great little bit of perspective there. I want to always ask you about those things because I think the viewers enjoy it, get that POV from the level you're looking at it. And of course, we'll see as Season 5 and the patch notes come along throughout these next couple of weeks leading up to May 12th. But right now, we're leading up to in-game. The ALGS Online Tournament number 5 is starting. And for that, it's time to send it to your casters. Let's get ready for the first game of the series.
Much rain day, hot, sick, fallout here, joined alongside Jamerson, gearing up and getting ready for online tournament number 5. And I don't know what it is about this one. I don't know if it's the many storylines that we have, the points and how things have shaken up with the ALGS points or what, but it feels like this is the first online tournament all over again in terms of the level of excitement getting ready for online tournament number 1, Jamerson.
Yeah, one of the greatest things about EU is how volatile it is. And so we have a lot of heavy hitters that like kind of revolve in and out of our finals. But so far, this is looking to be one of the most stacked finals so far for our EU online tournaments.
Yeah, that is for sure. I mean, again, we have Na'Vi, Virtus Pro, North, Alliance, Gambit, Luminosity making their return. Some of the biggest organizations in Europe, and a big shout out to those organizations supporting their teams right now. We saw the Na'Vi tweet earlier. This is going to be an amazing one in terms of storylines. But for everyone that's maybe watching for the first time, let's actually take a quick look at the points breakdown and how things are going to work going into game number 1. Keep in mind, placement is super important. First place gets 12 points with a 3-point drop down for second. That's 9 points. Then 2-point drop off all the way until 5th place, until it's a 1-point drop off all the way until 15th place. 1 point for 15th, 12 points for first. Obviously going to show the difference there. And of course, 1 additional point per kill, which helps to offer some fast-paced gameplay, in-your-face gameplay for teams that like to play a little bit more aggressive. So expect teams to play kind of one of two ways, or maybe a combination or right in the middle of both. Expect teams to play high aggression for kills and go and go all in, kind of like we've seen in the past for a few hyper-aggressive EU teams, Nasky, Strafe, Dell, etc. And on the flip side, some teams tend to play for a little bit more placement style, trying to get to late game, trying to just survive early rotations with the Pathfinder, etc. So that's going to set up our stories here coming into game number 1. Jamerson, would love to get your thoughts, your predictions going into the overall online tournament before we jump in.
Again, right now, it's about a lot of shifting rosters that's been happening, right? We have Ad Hoc Gaming that have added on Kuya along with Alliance, who have added on IPN, and they have seen better performances throughout our online tournaments since these changes. And so I'm really looking forward to those 2 rosters in particular, not just because they were the first seeds coming out of their own groups, but because now they have to test themselves against one of the most stacked lobbies since we started these online tournaments.
Exactly right. I love the breakdown. Always good to get your perspective. Jamerson dating all the way back since Krakow, Poland, when we were in Europe casting or actually hosting the desk for an online tournament. It's been great to get your analysis ever since, and we are excited as we are underway. The dropship is flying. The players are dropping into game number 1 here in online tournament number 5. Let's get ready for this one. We know that Nasky Strafe Dell likes to drop Fragment. Looks like one team will drop Fragment and get it by themselves, and we're on board with North to kick things off here. Excited to see North and their return to the finals here.
Yeah, they're just trying to get some poke damage off, just be a little bit of a nuisance here. One of the few teams dropping over at Overlook. But as we see on the mini-map, one of the teams had already grabbed the Pathfinder beacon, and the next ring is actually going to be pulling on over as we have a fight breaking down over here at Harvester.
That's exactly right. And looks like actually, wow, a lot of early aggression. A kill's going to come through. It's going to be BBS Esport getting taken out. QT Sati is the first to get eliminated in this one, followed by some aggression from Na'Vi as ZMB is going to get taken out of FA from Na'Vi. Great start for 2 teams as they're going to pick up early kills. That's 1 point apiece. A solid start for Na'Vi as we just saw that player profile from Claus. Maybe perhaps some foreshadowing jumping into game number 1.
Na'Vi, definitely one of those teams that likes to get the early aggression, and especially if they can pick up a kill. Looks like they were able to find a second person. It's Scanella also going down. A lot of early action going on here.
That's for sure. Currently, word of ZH and Co. is they're going to just be looting the rest of Harvester. They got the first kill on BDS, and that should mean they get Harvester mostly to themselves. They either have a 3 versus 2 fight, or they can loot. Meanwhile, some more action going on the tree side as OS currently in a fight. They split tree. Let's see who comes out on top. 1 member down. Mishpolo with full shield, and great shots going to be put in here from Katie. And Revive's going to come through as well, recognizing, hey, I got my teammate to cover us with full purple shields. I have them weak. Rather than going for the kill, going for the hunt, they're going to go for the Revive instead. They're going to heal up and live to fight another day.
And during that time, Na'Vi actually go out first, I believe. The first squad to go down. That's interesting. We were really expecting a lot more out of them here, but this early aggression, again, this stacked lobby, these stacked lobbies, these 50-50s are so volatile.
Yeah, and as we say that, the action's going to continue. Xania, a name that you know and love, the man who clutched the 1v5, 1v6, infamous in Krakow, Poland. He's going to get connect for a kill. welcome back to the online tournament, Luminosity Gaming, as Desu is going to follow up with a kill of her own on Krama. That's going to be BDS out as well with, I think, one player left potentially. So already 18 squads left here. This is a level of aggression we're not used to seeing in Europe, Jamerson. Typically, we have 20 squads alive here. Everyone's playing for rotations, but a lot of 50-50s and a lot of early fights is I think we have a variety of teams that some people just don't expect to be in the finals and didn't have a game plan for, and people are starting to drop on similar positions. Anything else, or do you think that might be it, Jamerson?
No, that's absolutely on point here as LG find themselves in a fight with a different squad here. They're going to be able to use that Gibraltar bubble, but I think you're absolutely correct. The fact that we had to play our quarterfinals and semifinals for EU this morning means that teams didn't have the same level of preparation coming into our grand finals.
Yeah. So interesting enough here, as things are going to slow down. They're going to use that dome to kind of reset. XNs needs to heal up a bit. But interestingly enough, LG is running Gibraltar. That's kind of their core bread and butter that they started running early on in these online tournaments. They switched to Caustic as they thought that Caustic meta was strong. That was right around online tournament 3 when Alliance took it home, or maybe it was online tournament number 2. And now they're back on Gibraltar. They also have run some Pathfinder in the past, so interesting to see LG opts for a Gibraltar meta, as obviously a big conversation right now is whether or not Gibraltar is the move. We've seen, and of course you may have heard, TSM did not qualify North America number 1 as they were playing with Gibraltar for the first time in this tournament, and it cost them. First time ever we've not seen one of our top tier organizations qualify. And of course in Europe we're used to seeing that Gibraltar meta be very, very strong. A lot of players playing on Gibby, but I'm interested to see how that continues to shake out outside of LG.
Yeah, we see very few Pathfinders now, it seems like. Nasty Strafe and Dell, one of those squads that still runs a Pathfinder. They are a team that mirrors very similarly to a lot of NA styles, especially with the way that they drop over at Fragment East. They have similar timings and everything. So I do look forward to watching more of them. They're already over here in the middle of the circle, and that's the strength of that Pathfinder, right? With their drop over at Fragment East, they get that early Pathfinder beacon, and then they make their move. And they're already over here at Mirage Voyage.
Yeah, great fast rotation coming in all the way from Fragment East, as mentioned. So the benefit there, as actually Xron's going to get into a little bit of a fight here. Gets a couple good Peacekeeper shots in. I think that was Nasty Strafe Dell. Look at that, the aggression. They're known to be a W key, in-your-face type of team. Currently pushing up here against what was former Crowd Crow, who performed incredibly well in the semifinals. The loss of that organization did not affect their motivation one bit, as they have continued to grind and continue to perform. But we'll see if Nasty Strafe Dell can keep up that aggression.
Yeah, Rabanu's back here in the middle of a fight, though, as they're trying to make the rotation through Fragment West, but it looked like they might have gone through a lot of the troubling aspects of it here as they try to Watson trap up the choke point.
That's exactly right. So, as we're used to seeing, teams starting to kind of play slow and play for rotations. And it looks like things are going to slow down here a little bit finally in the early game, going into mid-game right now. Another team that's running Pathfinder, that's of course North, currently on board with Monde of North. Good to see this org back in the online tournament finals, as we've seen them in and out throughout the past couple OT finals. Currently on board with Monde as they're making the rotation through Fragment East, which if you've played any online Apex, if you've played any ranked or competitive, this is one of the scariest places to rotate through because it's just a centralized point of the map. A lot of teams kind of converge on this one area as a center point. You always got to be careful on this rotation, but it looks like they'll be able to make it clean.
Now back on board with Click, who are trying to find themselves in a position for middle circle. Looks like they rotated north from Thermal Station now. Getting poked at just a little bit here, but they port back in. And they've got some bodies that they can actually try and utilize here. So this is going to be great for them, especially having that death crate there. That just means that's more inventory. I want to see them start pulling things out of there so that they can have easier access to it. As we do go back to North, I believe it was North who were the ones that were kind of getting gate kept here. And it might have been an opportunity for either of these teams to really try and get early KP. As we do know, once we get into these final lobbies, a lot of teams really do prioritize getting center circle. So taking these edge fights oftentimes does become an isolated fight, and you don't have to worry about the third party as much as you would going into the semifinals or quarterfinals.
And one thing we just saw on the top right of our screen, and, I typically wouldn't call out every kill in the kill feed, but Kuya, just the caliber of that player, one of 2 players to have qualified for every single online tournament final in Europe. That's, of course, the other one is Nasky, who actually qualified for the North American finals in his first tournament. He flew all the way to the States to compete in that one, so that's impressive to be able to qualify for both regions.
Let's go this way.
Kuya does go down, not eliminated just yet, so it looks like a revive may have come through, and the reason we bring up Kuya, of course, is a member of that ad hoc gaming squad with Matafe and co. He's really elevated his game. He replaced Zara for 2 online tournaments ago, or last online tournament, sorry. Really, the AHG squad has elevated their game since picking up Kuya, such a powerhouse player coming from Cababrilla. So we'll keep an eye on that kill feed to see if he does get taken out, but I think the revive must have come through at this point.
Yeah, right now on board with North, and I like this kind of pathing that they're taking currently. Ooh, Kuya has gone down again. I don't know exactly where that's happening. There we go. We have it on site. That's going to be Naik. That was able to take position over here, a Lava Fissure, and just poking him away with a long distance damage here coming out from both the Scout along with the Sentinel.
Solid poke from Naik. And it looks like they weren't able to follow up with the kill. And of course, this far into late game, you don't want to be the team that rushes when you get just one down. And the reason for that is everyone's rotated. If you just once we took a look at that map, we saw how converged all these teams are. They're all in such close proximity to one another. As soon as a fight breaks out, you're all familiar with it from playing competitive Apex online. That third party is going to come through quick, and you're going to put yourself in a bad position. So that's probably why we haven't seen that aggression come through following that knock. And they're going to be content just continuing to wait. We just got a nice Sparrow on top of the mountain there. Beautiful map here in Apex Legends.
You want to prioritize making sure that you have a power position or that whatever position you're holding right now. If you're in kind of center circle, you don't give it up. Even if you got that knock, it's hard to fight that urge to hold W, but you need to do it at this point. There's still 18 squads left, and we know that the higher you place usually in a lobby, that's there's a positive correlation with how many kills you end up getting. So if you can end up getting into the top 5, that'll also net you another 4 or 5 kill points. And that adds up, especially when we are in a 5-game series.
Yeah. On board with Gambit Esports. Gambit, of course, a squad that did not qualify for our last online tournament, despite great performances in online tournaments prior. So excited to see Gambit back in the online tournament final. Of course, we know Leogri and co., what they're capable of. Excited to see what they can do. And speaking of which, another team, Virtus Pro, who's been kind of on and off in terms of their overall qualifications. I have so much respect for this team. One of the few teams that actually don't have a chance to play Apex full-time, as they still work full-time jobs, a majority of the players on this team. So they're putting in work as pro players and kind of moonlighting, which is crazy to think about in terms of how many hours you have to put into playing at the top level, especially in our incredibly stacked European region with so many top teams. So a big shout out to Taylor Pia and Noth of Virtus Pro. They've also one of our teams that have maintained the same exact roster since Krakow Poland, the preseason invitational, where they played very, very well as a squad. Excited to see what VP can do.
Yeah, I love the position that VP have right now. Of course, with a lot of the early rotations, people had already maintained, were able to grab that top of Mirage Voyage, which is the power position in this circle. As the circle continues to grow, get smaller and smaller around it there. If you're not able to take it, trying to control one of the buildings to the south or even the choke point that VP had there. LG's position also by crates here can be incredibly effective as well. As now we go on board with Psychop from BDS. We saw them go down early on, but he's at least been able to rat this out for now. He's going to try and play edge as best as possible. Don't know if there's anyone in this area here, but he's got to be careful. He wants to at least make it the top 15.
Yeah, and look at him literally playing the edge here of the circles. He's just trying to rotate late. Nice little animation cancel there coming through from Psychop. As we did see 3 members of Psychop getting taken out of the top right. So that means they must have gotten of BDS. That means they must have gotten a revive in. So Psychop, currently the last member alive. BDS, other 2 members did go down early on. I think the last member was to the hands of LG. So Psychop's now going to be very content, just hiding, ratting as long as he can, and making it to the late game if he can, and trying to steal some hit point. Meanwhile, big fight taking place. ANM clone right now as he currently is going to get tagged up by that thermite. That's going to mess things up as the ult's going to come down as well, raining on his parade quite literally, but he's able to stay alive, avoid any damage from the defensive bombardment coming through from the Gibraltar, get into the dome of his teammate and reset if he can. But the team that's on their tracks here, we don't know who it is just yet, is probably hunting.
Foghorn is just going to be able to port them out from here, and so they'll be able to look like just get underneath. Oh, but Rondon takes a lot of damage.
They are tagged up significantly right now. The thermites are going to come through. We all know the horrors of being stuck in one of these trailers as you have 2 exposed windows to your right and left. Very exposed from nade. We'll see via our kill feed if that push comes through. Meanwhile, back on board of Gambit. it was Gambit you were talking about earlier in terms of their positioning, or perhaps VP. But Gambit in a very solid spot right now. Currently kind of has ultimate high ground on this map, as they're just going to try and be getting picks on rotations, get people as weak as possible, see if they can pick away any kill points. And they love their positioning right now, and you got to love it if you're a Gambit fan.
Yeah, Gambit are just north of the position that VP were holding. As we can see on the minimap, those 3 triangles just south of them at that choke point. That is going to be VP there. So VP going to have a little bit of difficulty at this point, because the circle will close. And once you get to kind of like the delta of that valley, there's not as much cover as you would like. And so that's a huge opportunity for Gambit to try and take out one of the heavy hitters on this lobby of VP.
Oh, big fight going down. It's going to be Click in a massive fight against Gibraltar Dome. No HP to his name. Needs to try and stay alive. Of course, as he does that, he's going to enter the void out. The flank's going to come through, though, from Taxi. Taxi downs one, gets a nice PK shot onto another, and he connect for the third. Well played right there from Taxi. That is exactly how you want to see a team comp play together. The Wraith was able to portal out, maintain their aggro, and escape from the situation with Into the Void. Meanwhile, Taxi was able to leverage that distraction to flank. Huge plays coming through. As I say that, it looks like Alliance is going to be in a fight of their own.
They've already gotten a knock onto Nyack there. Juke's going down, and I love the way that they use their Gibraltar here. And we talked about it, about how, you know, IPN is a recent pickup. He's picked up, of course, that caustic role very quickly here. Also learning to calm in Swedish for the team. So incredible resilience and adaptability coming out from that player right now. This is the north side, just south of Lava Fissure. They're holding in this valley here, which is actually a pretty decent spot for now, just because there's so many teams that already have the high ground. So if anyone tries to look down at them, they're going to get aggressive on. They're going to get shot. So there's no opportunity for any team to really look down at them right now. They're just picking up crumbs that drop down into this valley.
First, IPN replacing Laulia, that squad from Denmark, who retired a few online tournaments ago. He has been a great addition to this team. It hasn't gotten the success that they saw with Loli, as they won a tournament with Loli, and they have not been able to do so with IPN just yet. They're going to hopefully change that storyline here soon.
Yes, AHG dropping onto Alliance right now, but the caustic damage is doing so much of them. Matape is going to go down first.
Here comes the big fight. Kuya, he's going to get taken out as well, so it's all up to Zippet right now. Last member alive in AHG, our favorites coming into this one. At least the favorites on the top of the leaderboard, thanks to Kuya's ALGS Point. They're number 1 on that leaderboard. They're going to get eliminated by the hands of Alliance, but the member we were talking about, it's IPN, is going to get taken out. They grabbed their banner. Meanwhile, North's going to find themselves a fight of their own. Good shots put in from RPR. So we go from IPN to RPR now, because RPR is looking to be the one to make some plays, get some good shots in on the folks that are knocked. 2 versus 1, they recognize, because they have 2 down. So they have a numbers advantage. They're going to play it slow, play their angles, clear out right and left, and get some great shots in with that wingman. RPR is just a force to be reckoned with. Monday's going to look to pick up this last kill if he can, but no, he's going to go down. RPR now left in a 1 versus 1. Ring around the Rosie on the rock. Pockets full of posies. Let's see if RPR can clutch up. Yes, he does. He connects for the last kill. Huge plays from RPR, and he's going to get the kill leader accolade to suit.
That was a huge setup. Mindy getting that thirst on to one of the enemies there, allows him to get that armor swap, survives long enough. RPR was having difficulty landing those wingman shots, but luckily with that armor swap, he takes a few more hits and he's able to survive on 20 HP and clutches up with that PK. Back on board with Alliance here. They do recover IPN, and there's an opportunity for them to get the res onto him.
Exactly right. They're able to grab that banner pretty quick, and everyone loves the res feature in Apex. They really introduced the res feature into Battle Royales, and we've seen that be so prominent now, but you saw it first in Apex Legends back a year and a half ago. Let's see if they will go for this res opportunity. Looks like they're slow playing this now. They recognize there's a team nearby. They have to be super cautious on this res. Obviously, with the amount of noise it makes, it's high risk, high reward. Some teams can get a free kill. You don't want to necessarily give a team a free kill point. That 1 point could make a slight difference. But of course, they want to get their last teammate back up, so we'll see if they can do that. Meanwhile, on board with former Lazarus, Roger Bodger, he's going to get some good shots in cross map. I believe that is still on Alliance, if I remember correctly.
That's VP actually trying to push out. This is what we were talking about earlier on, where Gambit had a power position along with Lazarus here, looking out at that southern choke point, and that VP, while they were beforehand in a decent position, having to push out from there and having no cover whatsoever, it was going to be a difficult task to try and push out now. Underneath Lazarus currently is going to be SJP2, and this is also a decent spot. There's some, of course, I believe a team in that truck. We saw them go in there earlier. That was 33% chicken nuggets going into that location, and we'll see if SJP2 can. But it's going to be difficult with Lazarus right on top of them.
Close.
Yeah, my favorite team name, by the way, of the European Finals, 33% chicken nuggets. No, can't show caster's bias, but I may be rooting for you just on team name alone. Meanwhile, on board of Gambit, still in their solid power position with high ground. They're in a great spot. Artico and team, helped by Liagri and Hardecki, currently going to work a rotation. And back to the original spot that they were at. They've just been playing high ground, kind of the opposite of how Virtus Pro played, and you saw what happened in the fate of Virtus Pro as they got taken out. The importance of high ground can't be understated here, as now, good shots being put in cross map. They're going to have to hit this rotation momentarily. And I got to say, Jamerson, I've loved this late game circle, kind of a unique circle that we haven't seen much of in our grand finals, and I love the way this game is played out.
They're doing a really good job of maintaining their kind of presence in the north while also watching their back. They're using the Watson trap to really hold out the front side. So they'll have a path to kind of walk in with it. Now, I want to see them try maybe get a little bit aggressive here onto their southern side, but as we swap on over to Rugby here with that crowd, they are already in the ring. They've got this building that they can hold down. They're already set up. They've got all the armor swaps on the ground for them as well.
Yep. Next pro crowd, now known as HMK, putting themselves in a pretty tough spot. Rugby's going to get tagged up, but luckily has the pleasure of being wraithed and leveraging into the void to escape. So, CHMK now going to hit a rotation, and they are center circle. They're in a solid spot, one of the best positioned teams. They've been able to maintain this spot. Another team that was with them was Nasty, Strafe, and Dell. I wonder if they're still there. It might be them that they're fighting right now. Meanwhile, Click's going to pick up the kill on North. So North goes down. Big fights on the kill feed. Keep an eye at the top right of your screen. SJP2 going to take out a member of Gambit. Shots put in here for Ronnie as he's going to get tagged up quite significantly. A great peacekeeper shot going to come in from Sanye. Meanwhile, they're just going to back out, reset, leverage the dome of the Gibraltar to reset this fight if they can, try to maintain and keep their teammates alive. They have some extra shield swaps available at their disposal that they've charged up as well. Meanwhile, I believe one member of their team did get revived, heals up, and now Click right on the outside of them is trying to do as much damage as possible.
Yeah, the gold backpack coming in clutch for them there. Now it's like on the outside, can't do anything. Trying to take advantage of this. The reset has already come out now. Here comes the Gibraltar ultimate.
That is going to be tragic. Thank goodness for a dome shield. This is why Gibraltar is so crucial. Obviously, Watson plays a key role as well with her ultimate that is able to deflect any grenades, including missile projectiles from a Bangalore or Gibraltar, more likely ultimate. Dome shield of Gibraltar, a nice ability as well to keep your team alive. Meanwhile, Nasky, Strafe, and Dell, the team we talked about, is still alive. Thank you to our great observers for showing us that. So we have Nasky, Strafe, and Dell. We have CHMK, and then the last team, which I can't remember, Click, I believe, outside this one position. They were in circle, no longer are. Looks like a push is going to come through. Rugby and Go wants kill points. They're going to find them as they connect for one. That Baker of Click that gets taken out early. And let's see if Nasky, Strafe, and Dell try to take advantage of this opportunity. Yes, they do. They're going to push up and take out two members of Alliance, so some aggression of their own. Nasky, Strafe, and Dell, one of our most consistently placing teams. They're going to show up strong here in Game 1 so far.
Yeah, you were mentioning how they were used to play very aggressively now, but I think they've matured a lot, and they've been able to play a more measured style right now as we see Rugby taking the high ground here on this circle, getting good damage off. Hardecki and Gambit will go down.
So Gambit goes from being in one of the best positions to the worst position. Is HMK are going to put some great shots in, but Nasky, Strafe, and Dell are going to come through and get some kills on SJP2 as well. Max is going to get taken out for his aggression here, so the maturity comes through, but sometimes you got to fly. Speaking of which, big fight going down right now between CHMK and Nasky, Strafe, and Dell. Gambit got taken out early, but Nasky's going to down one. It's going to be Cyvic of SJP2, the third team in this fight. Dell goes down. Nasky, the last member alive of this squad. CHMK is playing so incredibly well.
And now it's about trying to just second here at CHMK are trying to take first place. That's going to be Denze going down. Now it's all up to Nasky.
Can you believe it? Nasky's going to get a revive on Dell. Dell's going to heal up, and Nasky's just trying to get as much damage as possible in while he gets the heals. Can he do it? All up to Nasky. He's going to get a good shot in, but it's not enough. Dell, the last member alive, he's going to be no shields right now. Finds a way to knock one. Is trying to back up and reset, but finds a storm right in front of him. Nasky needs to go huge. Couple members going to die. Two squads remain in this one. It's Nasky versus a team of three. Nasky's going to get taken out. He has the gold knockdown shield. Going to try and revive himself if he can, but Ronnie might not realize it.
Yeah, that's going to be and Ronnie will be able to finish this off here soon as he can try and get past them.
I
But
think he
again,
revived himself. I think the
trying
players
right now.
blocked enough. Yes, he revived himself. He is back in the fight because the players were blocking the door. Nasky self-revived with the knockdown shield. We don't see that happen very often. It's a 1 versus 1. Nasky has full shields. He's going to go for the thirst, trying to get some kill points here if he can. But these knockdown shields are too strong. Here comes the fight over 2 knockdown shields. We've never seen anything like it. But in the end, Nasky's going to get taken out. What a finish and what a game, number 1, Jamerson.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane. One of the big things there is we were talking about earlier, Gambit's position and how they need to make sure that their back was cleared, but SJP2 came in. We saw them underneath, playing for Mirage Voyage, was able to take that fight up against them. Gambit, they just went down way too early. SJP2 making it to the top 3 there, and that's why we got such a stellar top 3 final.
Crazy top 3 final alongside CHMK as the third team to round that out. I am almost out of breath here, Jamerson, and you could almost feel that game number 1 being special, being unique. It's because it started with 2 teams getting wiped off the beginning, which we're not really used to seeing in Europe. A lot of 50-50s early on, and then we saw the game kind of almost digress back to what we're used to seeing in the EU finals. Order was restored, if you will, with a lot of slow play on the rotations. Finally, it wasn't until Ring 4 that things got absolutely hectic. We went from 18 teams to 11 teams. It was a unique ring that we hadn't seen before, and you could almost tell that was the beginnings of what was going to be a very interesting and different game number 1 for the European finals. It ended with an absolute bang.
Yeah, a lot of times when I see that Mirage Voyage circle, I don't see it end over at Hot Springs as often. More often than not, in my own personal experience, I see it pull more towards the south than it does to the north. And so that was a little bit different here. And that's why so many teams were holding that position, trying to get as much KP as they can once they found that the ring did pull away from them. And so that was interesting. But like you had mentioned, the early game was a lot more aggressive than we were used to. And I think it was just because a lot of teams not dropping where they usually do or not having the same kind of scouting. Again, because we had to play the quarterfinals and our semifinals this morning, teams weren't able to prepare as much. One thing that did stand out for me was that LG, which we had been used to seeing very frequently in the last online tournaments, dropping over at Refinery. Now we're more center map, and they were at North Sorting Facility when they took their early fight. So that was very interesting for me.
Yeah, different play from LG. Granted, we haven't seen them in an online tournament in a very long time. All we've had are some scrims and additional tournaments to watch. So they went down a bit earlier than we would expect. So that's another key storyline, is to see what teams like LG, Alliance, Virtus Pro, Navi, some teams that are heavy hitters in Europe, got taken out early. But in the end, it was Nasky, Strafendel, SJP2, and X-Crow crowd known as CHMK that went huge with the top 3 finish. What a game number 1 it was. There's so much to talk about and to break down. And to do that, I'm going to throw it back to our analysts. It's and Rain Day.
I mean, my heart. I know you guys feel the same out there in the chat. I know everybody is freaking out right now. What in the world did we just witness? One of the best, I think, final circles we've seen in Apex Legends competitive in the ALGS. And Hotsick, I want to leave it to you, man. Incredible showdown between 2 very talented teams, but teams we didn't expect to see at this moment, considering how all the teams to watch are pretty much out earlier than later. But CHMK, what a performance as well when you look at them and Nasky Del Strafe. Break down that final moment and what you saw in that circle.
Yeah, I think it was the first time I've probably ever seen such a massive barricade of knockdown shields blockading that door, to where I believe it was Karan, the Watson of CHMK. I believe he was called to just fence up the door and heal up just in case they can't get the kill, which was actually a really smart play. Really well done, because if they happen to get the self-res off and he's wasting his time trying to barrel through that door, then that gives Nasky the opportunity to maybe take a cheeky shot at him and down him. So it was actually a smart play, and it ended up working out for him.
And one of the greatest things that I saw, it was kind of like, I think in earlier, me and Onset were talking about bait and switch is just a joke, but that was really the bait and switch. You see the first down happen for Nasky. He's got the self-revive shield. We see the gold shield. Then all of a sudden, we take our eyes off it, and it's a white shield blocking the door. And it's like, wait, wasn't there a gold shield somewhere? And all of us are watching. Yes, he self-revived in the corner, not only just to buy that time, but to get the battery off. And again, to show the composure to pull something like that off and make it that close. I think even before he went down, he hit him for 117, and it was probably about 20 health points away from knocking him down. I mean, great individual performances, but it just goes to show how so many big things can have, small things can have such a big difference as far as who wins and who takes second place.
Absolutely. And just goes to show you the strength of knockdown shields. I mean, I think most people don't really think too much about them, but they are, once you go down, that doesn't mean you're out of the game, and that's especially true in competitive. I mean, as you see right here, both teams are blocking each other out. Nasky's team doesn't want them to push in to kill him. CHMK is blocking because they don't want Nasky to come out, because if you look, Karan actually has the zone here. So his whole play, if he's obviously trying to go for the kill, but he has a contingency plan of just stalling him out and making sure he doesn't leave that building and dying to the zone. So he was in the strong spot. Nasky had to make the move. I've never seen an end circle play out like that, so that was really cool though.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great showcase, I think, of the great little things in Apex Legends you can learn from watching this broadcast, and also how to apply them to your game. It is really like the teammates that were not finished but were downed that helped to make that a reality, to end up clutching that final PK shot. Even though he was running the choke, missed the first one, he ended up, letting that go a little bit, gave him a wiggle room, and he hit that final one to get the win. I'm excited to see these results, though, because there was a lot of, I think, kills throughout that game by multiple different teams. We saw Alliance get involved towards the end there. We saw a revive of IPN, although that ended up causing him to die pretty immediately afterwards. But still, it was a pretty contested top 5 and 6. SJP2 also involved there, looking pretty good until that top 3.
Absolutely, and a big mention, like I said, this just goes to show how it's anybody's game in Europe and how good all of these teams are. All the teams that we had to watch, I think most people would agree, are some of the best teams out there. But yeah, I think 4 out of 5 of them died almost instantly, or at least within the first 5 teams to die. It just goes to show you the strength of Europe as a region in this game.
And how you never know what's going to happen. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of it, right? Let's take a look at the Game 1 results here as we see CHMK. They bring it out with 12 kills and a win. That is 24 points. And Nasky Strafe dealt a valiant effort towards the end. A nice self-revive, but they take second because of placement and 7 kills to their name. However, Click Esports, they had a really nice game. 9 kills, 13 points. That moves them into third over SJP2, who have 11 points to their name. Alliance as well, rounding the top 5 out with 9. And you'll see Gambit, North, Lazarus, Outsiders, and Odin Games rounding out the top 10. So no LG, obviously, when we look at that. No Ad Hoc Gaming. We talked about Na'Vi. They were the first one out. No Virtus Pro as well. A storyline in itself, Hodzik. But, as we look at some of the highlights of this game, let's talk who you're excited about after their Game 1 performances.
Definitely, I believe this is the Na'Vi fight, but definitely, it's still anyone's game at the end of the day. All these teams can definitely come back. Click, though, definitely an underrated team, as we see. Yuki right here clutched up with a PK a bit, but Taxi, Baker, all really good players. Definitely an underrated team. It's hard to pick a top 20, and I believe we're seeing the Alliance versus Ad Hoc Gaming fight here. And that's a massive, there's no better feeling in a tournament than taking out a team that in your mind is one of the big competitors, because that means you're stopping them from getting points, and you got some points off of them as well. So massive pickoffs there.
And it's kind of like, when you look at, I'd say, more of the natural predator style. If you're trying to survive in a game like this, you see the 2 top dogs taking each other out or wasting their resources fighting early game. I think everyone in the lobby is a bit happy about that, because they know, well, if they get to us, they might be a little weakened. They might have wasted some things. They might be late on a rotation. Gives us a chance to, I think, poach some a little bit of an advantage that we may not have if we were going straight up 1v1 against them, because we know how they performed. We know the skill that they have on their team. But again, if you're talking about Apex Legends, you're talking about Europe, everybody has a chance to win. And that's one of the things that you can see with CHMK taking game number 1. For those of you watching on YouTube, though, we realize there are a bit of connectivity issues going on. We are looking to address that. So bear with us, please, as we get that handled. Everybody's working from home. We are staying and playing here due to the coronavirus and all of these things, and that have changed kind of the culture so far. But we've found some ways to do this in a great way. Very excited you guys are still watching and hanging with us. But again, please, a little bit of patience as we get that YouTube issue sorted out. I think everything currently is fine on Twitch, however. But yeah, no, this is, I think, Hanzik, a great start to the day, because everybody that we had picked isn't in the top 5 essentially, and except for Alliance. And now it means that, CHMK are the top dogs in this lobby. How do you approach that one heading into game 2? And what do Na'Vi and maybe Virtus Pro, some of these teams we had our eyes on in game 2, have to do in order to get in the conversation now?
So I think one of the interesting things about battle royales in general is when it's not just like, it's not like a traditional shooter where, we lost this map, okay, time to bring it back and win this map. Every game changes the way you play based on how you did in your last game. So the most ideal situation is win right away, get a decent point game right away, and then just coast, make sure you're putting up some points on the board, and you'll probably win. But when you're one of these teams that posted up a really bad game, you can't let that get to you. But you're under fire, under pressure to have to make sure that you are constantly performing at least probably like 12 points per game if you really want to stay up there. So they got to turn it up next game.
It's going to be an exciting thing to watch as well. And if you guys are watching, you saw any moments that stood out? I mean, I'm sure you did, especially with the way that game ended. A couple of nice shots from North RPR, a little skirmish we almost caught our eye on for a key play and a moment coming up. But make sure you tag hashtag ALGS for any of those things with your tweets, whether it's a video clip, whether it's a shout out, whether it's just something about enjoying the tournament. Make sure to hit that up. We might feature you on stream as well. And if you guys want to follow all of our socials, it's @PlayApex on Twitter, on YouTube. Make sure to stay involved. And also playapex.com/ALGS to get involved and know everything going on with this pro scene and these online tournaments as well. All right, Hanzik and I have kind of broken down, talked a little bit about game 1. That was CHMK, who took a fantastic, ridiculous final circle with a self-revive and knockdown shields, setting a line of defense like we've never seen before. But game 2 is about to kick off in Europe. So without further ado, let's send it to our casters.
Hey, thanks so much, Rende. Bravo and Onset here to call game number 2 for you. Onset, we had a heck of a game number 1 to kick things off for Europe. We were excited to get into games, but I got to say that was an even better opening than we could have asked for.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's early morning for you over in North America at the moment, but Europe is up and it is ready to play. And if game 1 was any kind of sign about how exciting today is going to be, then I think we're in for a heck of a ride. A 1v1 to end it, plays that we don't usually see happening in that game number 1 towards the end circle, and some surprises at the top of the leaderboards as well. I mean, what a huge point performance from CHMK. I'm sure that everybody probably looking across some of the big names we had in that game 1, Andy, would not have put them in that first place spot, especially with so many kill points to go alongside it.
Absolutely. As the European fans were talking about coming into this grand finals, this is a stacked lobby. We've got some teams are turning that we hadn't seen before. We obviously have some big omissions as well. We'll get into those throughout the game, but an awesome game 1. Hopefully you caught that. That's CHMK, Rugby, Sanya, and Karan going huge with a first place win with 12 kills off the break. Pretty amazing. And also, we got to talk about just, Mark, really the impacts. Keep in mind, this is a 5-game set, as you see on your screen. This is game 2 of 5. Let's talk about the impacts of what a game 1 can do for a team.
I mean, game 1, a big performance in game 1. It gets the adrenaline going, right? And the way to kind of judge how good a game you've had is if you take a 10-point rule as an example, teams who are finishing in that top 5 when it comes to the end of a tournament usually average around 10 points per game. Put that into perspective now, CHMK just put up 24 points, I believe it was, in that game number 1. So the way to see it is they kind of have a game in the bag now to not have a great performance, or they have an option to maybe go a little bit further as we see early action once again as BDS not having the greatest of time, and they're going to be taken down almost immediately. Our first squad will fall here.
And that's Commando once again. Commando going up against BDS, and we noted in the first game, if you caught the beginning of that game 1, BDS was in an early fight. Fighting for their drop. They managed to have one player solo it out into the mid game. However, that is the first time really we're seeing consistent themes. Keep in mind, if you've been watching competitive Apex for a long time, we've been talking about when will drops be contested, or rather, if and when drops will be contested more heavily than the current state of the game since way back, even starting at the X Games, really the beginning of competitive Apex last summer. And now we're starting to see it. We were talking with Hodsec just now during game number 1, just as we're watching the games together. And now you're starting to see teams getting even a little more egoed off their drop. BDS on the receiving end of that aggression again. They will lose that again. They are our first team to drop there in game number 2.
And you have to say, what point do you put your ego to the side? That's 2 games out of 5 now You know, it's a huge percentage of the games that are now gone. No points on the board. And as far as they're concerned, they're going to have to look to switch up their drop point because they can't afford now. They can't afford to have another game where they don't pick up points and they don't have the opportunity to continue deep into a game and essentially throw away this final performance for them. But having a look at the overhead map, we could see the Pathfinder beacon being lit up on one of the teams that we did see. And it looks like it's moving to the north of this building that we're setting up. We see this team setting up in Fragment. So it's going to probably finish, I would imagine, up on that hill, which is quite a difficult situation and kind of position on the map to try and hold down, to try and zone out due to the open nature and the lack of cover that you have a lot of teams over. So this position is, in my opinion, one of the strongest positions to rotate from, as well as hold down towards that late game.
Absolutely. They're going to have a lot of opportunities to just engage teams that are coming over those hills, as you mentioned. That's going to be Ravenu's backpack there, the side of X-Cafu ZMB, as well as Island, as they're going to be ready here. Like you said, just holding down this rooftop for now. But if you're just joining us here, this is game number 2 of the Apex Legends Global Series online tournament number 5 for Europe. An amazing game number 1 with CHMK taking a 24-point victory and a final circle with a 1v1 against GSD. SJP2 was your third-placed team. However, it was Click who moved into third due to their 9 kills from that game. So already a great start for this European side as we're going back over to see BDS as well.
And a similar pattern of play to what we would expect from Europe in this second game as well. And what I mean by that is the fact that apart from the team that were taken down off drop and did have that congestion going on their POI where they were going to drop on the map, 19 squads still left in the lobby as Ring 1 is about to close. We saw around 18 squads, I believe, left in those later circles before the zone really did start to squeeze the teams together and force those fights. But early rotation seems to be key here. Everyone looking to get into position without taking fights. And that's what you can expect to see from all teams in Europe as these games progress.
Absolutely. Now back over to the BDS side, as we said, the team that met that early aggression against Commanda 2 games in a row now and able to hold their drop. Like we said, maybe a little bit of egoing going on. Of course, there's a lot about presence when it comes to these initial drops, and in scrims, a lot of leading up to tournaments is establishing who is holding those drops. Teams continue to drop on those areas, really to say this is our area. If anyone drops, we will continue to hold it. A little bit of a statement and jockeying for position in scrims leading up to these events, as BDS will get ready to fight out again. And you have to wonder for them if they're one of those teams that's going to wonder in games, now that we have 2 games back-to-back with early aggression, are we going to have to be worrying about that in games 3 through 5? Have they eventually won that now with that game 2 victory? That will be the question for them, but now it's going to be IPN getting the Hackers back into the game for the side of Alliance.
I was about to say, yeah, we are seeing a drop onto Hackies there, the Wraith playing for Alliance. However, the fact that they did have that respawn beacon right next to them, and they're within that next circle, gives them a little bit of time to get him back into the game and get back to that loot that was dropped. So it's not going to be too much of a detrimental effect to their end game. Looks like they're pretty comfortable now, and IPN is a player that we should talk about, and I know that a lot of the guys on the desk were talking, and we were talking among ourselves before this game really kicked off, and the fact that in the last tournament, he'd only been playing Caustic for a couple of weeks, but now he's got a little bit more experience under his belt. He might be the deciding factor for Alliance to step up to that next level, as now we're seeing the pressure really start to come in on them.
Absolutely. They're forced to drop, of course. These buildings are going to be pretty safe to allow for door blocking and also playing your angles, making sure you get all your heals in. But actually, they do get pushed from the opposite side and need to be very careful here. Hawkes has just finished all of that shielding. Now going to need to pop a few cells as well. Also, IPN and Vase have to watch this doorway as well. They're in a world of hurt now. Vase goes down. It looks like we might see the same thing happening for other members of the side. Now, let's see exactly how this plays out.
Yeah, we're seeing Sinky push in with this R99, and he's got the gold shield as well, so he's going to be able to get the heals off. But the only problem is you're pushing Alliance, and Alliance are one of the best teams in Europe for a reason. One of those reasons, give them a disadvantage, put them in a back-to-the-wall situation, and they still come out on top. Alliance, phenomenal performance from them there in that fight.
Yeah, it really was. There's an excellent work there. Of course, you did see IPN getting down some barrels as well to lock that down. That was certainly played a factor in that final battle, but they're not done yet. Hackus' gold swap did a lot for him. Can he get the fast bat off? No, the bat does not go down, and that will be Alliance there bleeding out in that battle, and they fought as long as they could on set, but the aggression was a bit too much.
And the longer that fight goes on, the longer the opportunity for a third party to come in exists, essentially. And that's exactly what happened. And I think it was Gambit who actually came in to clean up those kills there onto Alliance. And if you can take out a team like Alliance early game, as you see, the third squad, oh my god, my maths is terrible, to drop in this particular game, then you know that's points off the board for them as far as this game is concerned. So if you're putting yourself in contention by taking out one of the best teams, fair play to you, you're going to have a good go with it.
Big, certainly important there is also we saw Alliance actually meeting up with AHG early in game number 1. Those are your winners of each of their respective semifinals. As they were talking about on the desk, it's a big moment in the game that people are also going to see in the feed in terms of two heavy hitters going up against each other. But this time, it was Alliance getting on the receiving end of the aggression. In that game 1, by the way, Alliance did have a 6th place finish with 6 kills. So not a terrible performance in that game number 1. They're going to be leaning on that points-wise after their early exit in game number 2.
So now we're seeing the ring close in round 1. 3 teams have dropped, so a little bit more action, only by 1 team, of course, than we saw in that game number 1. But looking at the overhead, you can see most teams have already rotated into a safe position on the map, or at least found themselves some sort of area to try and hold down. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this second ring really not have too much action as teams are kind of jockeying for position and trying to set up for that next ring closing. It looks like it could be a pretty quiet ring here, but you never know. You could see some big plays coming out, and when you've got 2 Evo shields on you, like EDS do, they're going to have to be poking and put down some damage.
Absolutely. Click does get that drill beacon, so we'll have to see once we get a mini-map on screen to see exactly where that beacon does pull. And now, as you see more dead center, looks like we could be heading straight for that central station. Obviously, those were some of the first buildings to go. We've seen quite a few end circles there in competitive Apex play, so this is going to be no stranger for a lot of the teams in this lobby.
Yeah, and I like this push coming in from Click as well. They get one down. They're going to try and finish off the Watson as well. The defensive Gibraltar bombardment does come in, but you can see the Wraith being super aggressive here, using that portal to try and get into a position to finish off these final 2 members and put those KP on the board. I like the aggressive use of the Wraith portal. The question is it going to be in vain here? Can they locate this player before he gets some battery and shielding off to make this fight as easy as possible?
Yeah, Yuki unable to sniff out that last player, like you said, as we now take a look at the Naiad side as well. We saw some good stuff from them. They were in a very early rotate in game number 1 into Lava Fisher. Now they're making a little bit of a later rotation.
And I was a little bit worried there for the Gibraltar. I thought he was going to take a moment just to get some shields to make the jump into that portal, but the portal call was safe, and they decided to make the play, and he could get through there without taking too much damage. So they managed to rotate into at least Fragment here, and they should be safe for that next circle closing. But back over to Click Esports, and it looks in the kill feed, it looks like they weren't able to locate those final couple of players from BDS who were trying to escape their clutches. So they're going to have to, once again, think about that next step into the game for them. Let those kills go away and maybe look for another team and another position to fight against.
And you have to wonder if Click is right now going to all in on the Skyhook Pass rather than taking the western route around this cliff. They certainly are motioning as if that might be an option for them, but given the fact that there are still teams in Skyhook, that's going to be a risky move, and they're going to be blind on using that pass to the south. They might still want to take that western route. Going to be interesting to see which one they decide there, and if they even try to scout that pass. Actually, you have a team pushing into Skyhook. Look at that minimap through Skyhook Pass, so that will make that question even more interesting.
Yeah, and speaking of the teams that are set up in Skyhook at the moment, they're going to have a very difficult rotation out. They kind of hedged their bets, maybe rotated late, but moving through one of the tire chokes on the game towards that central station where this ring looks like it could be potentially ending up is going to be very difficult for one team, let alone the fact that there's 2 or 3 teams set up in Skyhook at the moment. And the team they're going to be running into as well, Andy, when they get to that choke point is Gambit Esports. So it's going to be a difficult rotation for them, and Gambit could be in a nice position here to pick up some KP.
And I like the decision from Click. You did see them actually taking the eastern route all the way around Skyhook towards the end of Rain Tunnel. And speaking of that tunnel, we do see Gambit now pushing through. They were in Rain Tunnel for just a bit. I was surprised earlier on that we didn't see any teams holding Tunnel, given that the current end of the ring is going to give the teams such security to their back. We finally do see a little bit of that. And now Click has to make what is going to still be a difficult route. This is going to be easier than their Skyhook Pass route that they could have taken. This eastern route is going to give them a little bit more flexibility. However, there's still going to be a lot of opposition as they are now really quickly approaching the thickness of this map. So many teams are set up right here along this station and these few outskirt buildings.
Yeah, they need to be aggressive as well because that ring's going to be closing from behind them. So you can see as soon as damage was done, the call was to push, the call was to go. And it's even more prevalent when you have someone with a gold shield and you get damage on them. You need to take advantage of that split second to close the gap on that team before he can get themselves off, before he can get a battery and be back up to a full complement of health.
Gambit, by the way, in fourth place for the placement point in the game number 1, and they're looking to have a great performance here. Gambit, one of the teams we talked about looking to establish consistency in Europe. Hardeki takes some hard damage, though, and actually does not spend the Q. Now back over to the side of Artico. He has to go out. Click is trying to make this push happen. Got a little bit more time to do so, and you know the teams that are even further towards the outskirts stations and these buildings are going to be looking to pick off whoever wins this battle.
Yeah, Gambit are coming under so much pressure at the moment, and it's CLQ once again who are looking to force them off this spot, and it looks like they've done it once again. So good aggression there. Gambit have been forced to back up here, and they're going to have to play the edge of the ring now. So from what was a power position for them, now they've got their back against the ring, and they're going to have to fight their way back to a central position.
And interestingly, rain tunnel becoming more of a factor as this ring starts to close even more. You'd expect the opposite to be the case, but now back on board with Yuki, as you said, was trying to get some more damage on the side of Gambit. Unable to really make those count, though, as everyone has just about healed up on the Gambit side. They're pushed a little bit further south into that low ground, but now Hardeki does have to spend the Q. He will try to get out of this, and lots of heals going in with the side of Gambit.
Yeah, and you can see Leo Grease come down as well here for Gambit. And to be in a position to maybe get a res. Nice shots with the R99 though. He's going to give them some time, and popping that ult accelerant at the moment very quickly by the Watson player means that Artico can not only look for a potential res here as they get up to a full complement, it means they can now lock down an area which in that inside the circle that is closing, and also defend from any potential grenades and of course that Gibby bombardment that's coming in as well.
Yes, Nyash, I believe, that went down there. An interesting series of events with that Gibby, not entirely knowing exactly where the players on Gambit might have been. Gambit able to fight out of that one, as well as we take a look once again at Click making that rotation as they are desperately trying to get into some better real estate. But right now playing the edge very well with this Gibby comp.
And this is a CLQ versus Gambit battle that is going on at the moment. It's been going on for about 3-4 minutes now, and neither team can really get an advantage. You can see that Click Esports are desperately trying to push in on Gambit, trying to force them off, but Gambit somehow just keep coming away. But speaking of the push, here it comes once again from Click Esports, and that grenade from Hardeki has taken down Yuki, and now for the first time in a while, Gambit Esports have the advantage in this battle, and now they're trying to push on this Gibraltar bubble and trying to get the finish, and it looks like after all is said and done, finally Gambit Esports will come out with the win against Click. That was a long, elongated battle, but Gambit will come out on top.
And not only that, but they had to pause and take another fight as well as they had to take down Nyash. So that was not only an elongated battle between those two teams, but I think it speaks to the skill level of Gambit. They were able to pause and say, hold up, let's take out this team really quick. Okay, now we're done with that team. Now we can go back to fighting Click. Amazing display of skill, and that's one of the reasons that Gambit is one of the most talked about teams in Europe now, as we have 14 squads remaining.
Now we're going to have a moment of quiet here as Gambit finally withhold the push that was coming in from Click Esports. And you saw a few extra bullets going into the death box there, and that is because, you know, Click had the advantage a few times in that battle, but one time that the guys on Gambit Esports went to get the advantage, they took it.
Off screen, I was going to say, Navi, by the way, in a big battle with CHMK. We're going to keep an eye on that. You've been seeing it in the kill feed as well, as we also take a look at Ad Hoc here, flying in to be the third party in that battle with CHMK.
Ad Hoc Gaming is set up in a nice position here under that building. I don't think they're going to be safe though, so they're going to be forced to push in and try and take a fight, and that's exactly what is happening now. You can see the 1% is going to be taken down. Great shots here from Matafe as well. You know that Hotstick loves watching him play, and this is why the aggression, the push is perfectly executed there. The chemistry of Ad Hoc Gaming showing up once again. They're going to get the clean wipe there onto Na'Vi, and they will take the spot. They're still going to have to move once they get these deals off.
Absolutely, and like we said, Ad Hoc Gaming, another one of your teams that was the first place in their semifinal coming into this. It's another team that has been talked about extensively, and a lot of fans certainly have started to take notice of the way that they play the game. They had a rough exit in game number 1, as we mentioned, going up against Alliance, but there with a great push in the end to win that one.
Now we're going to back on board with Nasky, Strafe, and Del, team who almost pulled off the miraculous play in game number 1, coming in second place. And they're set up in what I would describe as the prime position. The truck right in the middle of this station. They've got the Watson ult up as well. They've got some fences to use. They can take their time and just wait for all the other teams to have to be forced to move into them. Not only that, Andy, looking across the weaponry, they're going to have the Mastiff in hand as well to survive those close quarter battles. And speaking of close quarter battles, the Mastiff is showing exactly why it is such a devastating weapon to have in your hands when those final circles are closing. Great KP on the board once again here for Strafe, Nasky and Del.
My God, that angle that Del had with that Mastiff over that little curb into that dome, is that ever an angle that you want to have? That is the stuff of dreams. Now 8 squads left, very similar to an end circle that we saw in the North American semifinal yesterday, in case you were watching those matches. Very difficult route for any of the teams that are having to push up these hills and into this action. Taking a look at LG for the first time as well. How many times have we seen them in a situation like this, as Desu desperately trying to stay alive and keep things going for the squad here, as we also take a look at VP, who's making their move towards the back of this station.
Yeah, VP, of course, with that Wraithless setup as well. So they're going to be looking to zone off an area, maybe look for a juggle zip somewhere as well, where that final circle will close. And VP, as I say, not been an ever-present in the final. So good to see them back and good to see them putting in a performance here in game number 2. But in my opinion, this is the team that we need to watch toward the end game. They are the team that are in position with some real estate, with some cover, that can really potentially win this game. Everyone else is going to be fighting towards them, but somehow LG's still in this game, and Desu, she's doing a fantastic job here to stay alive and put the pressure on.
Yeah, as Desu, we could see her into the late game. We'll have to keep an eye on them, but now looking at AHG, looking very good in the way of armor as well. Portal does come down from Matafe, forced to Q, and going to drop that as well. Gets melted right away. Look at that HP. Almost goes down. Absolutely just destroyed there. And has to port back immediately. You can be sure that communicating to the team, do not take this portal. This one is not safe. They're going to have to wait to reset. And look at that. Just like that, Matafe is right back in the action. That's why one of the reasons we love watching him play, able to get right back in. Now Zippet, though, has to be careful. PK is out. Needs to try to win this. He's going to go ahead and hit that first. Very wise hit for 70. And that spray from that flatline also going to do some damage, but needs to be careful here. And no shield across the whole team.
Yeah, no shield, and they're pushing, and they're trying to do damage with the PK, and somehow they've actually managed to sneak into a top 5 position. So good performance there from Ad Hoc Gaming from a disadvantageous position. Need to get the finish on this, but you can see that Strafe has gone down here as that Circle is going to pull away from that truck. So we're going to have a little bit of a fight here in a juggle 4 position, and that is going to be Nasty, Strafe, and Del eliminated as we are down to our last 3 teams. One of those teams are VP, and they're up on height. This is where they love to play from, Andy.
Oh, and this is not just height, this is super height, as they're able to hold that down, as we did see. Take a look, I think a self-res for Matafe coming through. The man is back, so we thought it was maybe a trade between AHG and GSD. However, instead, it's going to be Matafe with the self-res, and he's getting everybody back up too.
And look at this, the Gibby bubble goes up as well, so I thought it was a top 5 performance. Change that, scrap that. It's a top 3 performance now for AHG. So that self-res proving absolutely vital for them. So now we are down to our last 3 teams. VP are one of them. Ad Hoc Gaming are the other, and Gambit Esports are our 3rd team in this battle. And in these positions, the last thing you want to be doing is being the first team to fully engage in the battle. You want to wait as long as possible and come in and sweep up with that third party.
Yep, Gambit's still playing that lower ground. You see them on your screen now as they're able to still play all these angles. They have the opposite of height here with that essentially the lowest ground right now in the mix. PJ is still up top, being able to zip back and forth, and now lots of grenades and thermites going to be actually going down on the side of Gambit. Now Matafe actually goes down during what looked like maybe just setting the portal. It was not enough, so now he has to try to fly back, and he's going to rely on his teammates. Now PJ flying in as well, takes a lot of damage, but still looking good in the way of shields. Take a look at Gambit, though, with height and full shields. They look the best in this circle on set.
Yeah, VP are going to be Gambit dropping down here, and the beautiful PK shots. Going to miss one there, but this is getting frantic towards the end, and we have our final team who have won it, and I believe that might have been a final player from Ad Hoc Gaming. I need to get that confirmed because we didn't see that final championship banner. Or was it Gambit Esports who managed to close it down? Excuse me, Andy. But I mean, the story of that one for me, there was a couple of fights that were elongated. Gambit Esports holding off that push for so long, finally managed to win that battle to give themselves everything they needed to get towards the end circle. Ad Hoc Gaming somehow staying alive in that position with the self-res to get into that top 3, and VP re-announcing themselves here to Europe, finishing in that top 3 as well. So a lot to look forward to as we move towards game 3, but another game just full of excitement and full of action.
Yeah, and that's not exactly the way that we see that end circle pull every single time. The fact that that pulled a little bit further east away from the station provided you with some really big deltas in terms of height that we saw VP playing, ultimately Gambit playing in the end. As we take a look, Gambit does take first place. They also had 14 kills. A big game for Gambit. Keep in mind, they also placed 4th in the first game, so they're going to be looking good after 2 games. Second place was Ad Hoc Gaming in the end. Huge kills, if I'm not mistaken, actually might be something like 18 kills from them. We're going to have to wait to see exactly if that's the case. I believe that's what I'm seeing on the OBS screen. It's a little small. I've got a lot of screens on my monitor. And then VP is going to be in 3rd. GSD will place 4th, but definitely looking forward to seeing some of the replays from that late game. Big stuff there once again from Matafe to get Ad Hoc Gaming all the way into 2nd place, as you mentioned.
It's just those small plays again. You know, Rain Day said it perfectly on the desk, said so many small plays add up to a big play for your team. The res shield's going up and keeping Matafe alive long enough for him to hit the self-res and get back into the game. That's what changed them from a top 5 team to a top 3 team. And we know how much 1 KP can change what your potential finish is in these kind of tournaments. So going from 5th to 3rd and a few extra KP to go on board, that one play could be the difference between Ad Hoc Gaming coming in 2nd or 1st as the tournament ends.
Especially because we did not see Ad Hoc within the top 6 coming into our game number 1. It's a big game number 2 for them, as you said. In the end, though, it's going to be Gambit Esports with a high kill game as well. They will take a game number 2 to recap that last game and get ready for game number 3 as well. We're going to go back over to Rain Day and Hansik.
Well, thank you so much, guys. Wow, what a moment that we just witnessed again. And Hansik and I, Rain Day here, are going to break things down for you. But first, I want to react to that raw reaction here. We saw some huge plays from not only some great teams that we had mentioned earlier, like Virtus Pro staying involved to the top 3, but AHG and Gambit. We've been following them along throughout all of this broadcast. And you particularly, Hansik, were talking about a lot of what Gambit was doing. These 2 teams really showed up in game number 2.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there was so much going on. I literally had to get a pen and paper and notebook and start recording things down.
We all do.
Beautiful, just kind of playing teams or playing around the teams that were near that skyhook choke by Gambit. Absolute slaying by Ad Hoc Gaming. I believe Matafe had to clutch a 1v1 very early on in a tunnel, and then they proceeded to have so many kills in a nuts game. I mean, it was just it's crazy, and they're delivering some insanely action-packed games.
Well, we talk about, I mean, you know, the 1v2s or those clutch moments. The reason they're so exciting is because in Apex Legends, it's very hard to take somebody down because the time to kill is a little longer. I mean, that's what we're experimenting with the battle armor stuff and staying at a level 1, level 2. In Apex, when you can have gold shields and red shields, taking down just one person is an effort. Taking down 2 is pretty extraordinary, but we expect it from a guy like Matafe. And I want to talk about him a little bit because obviously they came in 2nd place, but I want to spend some time talking about Gambit because Gambit have made some great decisions. They obviously came in 1st place with the high ground and the ability to drop down, but also you talked about them doing something pretty well called being the bread, Hansik. What does that mean? What were they doing so well that brought out that term from yourself?
Right. I'm not sure if we have the footage for it, but basically right up by the skyhook choke where the circle kind of ended, at one point, they were essentially the meat of the sandwich. You had, I believe, Click coming in from the north from Skyhook, pinching them into Odin Gamers to their south. And what you saw Gambit do was they were like right at those like rocks that just begin at the choke. They dipped underneath the bridge. They recognized that they were the meat of the sandwich, and they dipped under the bridge and kept like trying to while fighting the teams off, kept trying to back out of the fight to be the bread. You know, in a battle royale, you never want to be the meat of the sandwich. You always want to be the bread. And they did exactly that. And they ended up actually cleaning up both teams, picking up 6 kill points and advancing 2 spots in placement as well. So really, really well played there by them.
It's a great principle, man, and I like that it even applied to the very final moment. As we take a look here on your screen, the way that Gambit was able to maneuver through these fights by showing up in what could be the bread, it could be a third party, it could just be great positioning, but notice how they're not the ones involved in most of these plays as far as who the other teams are competing against. They're taking part in and then showing up when it matters most, and that shows not only execution, because even when you show up, you still have to do the job and hit your shots, but it also shows just game sense. And I feel like Gambit, throughout all of these ALGS tournaments, find themselves at the top of the leaderboard regionally for a reason, and it's because their game sense and their execution, they're both on point, Hotsick.
Absolutely. They're not a team that's often talked about when you talk about like the big heavy hitters when it comes to just Apex in general. But I think what's impressive for them is how consistent they've been in a region where it's incredibly hard to be consistent in. So
Right.
Big hats off to them. They're playing textbook Battle Royale.
Yeah, I mean, and you could say maybe one of the hardest regions as well to do it week in on week in, because
absolutely.
there's so many, yeah, right? There's so many good teams that could take your spot and are really going to take your spot if you slip up just once. So shout out to Gambit as well. And let's take a look at the Game 2 results, because we know Gambit took first place, but what about the rest of the top 10? Where did they end up being? It was Ad Hoc Gaming who actually ended up in first because of their points. Now, they didn't win the game, but they got 18 kills.
Nuts.
Get out of town.
Absolutely nuts.
This is one of the biggest scores we've ever seen in Apex Legends in a single game. Second place, 18 kills. I told you we're going to talk about AHG. We just had to wait for this moment here, because now we can talk about them for the rest of the analyst portion. But just to mention, Virtus Pro, again, they show up. They weren't really in the conversation in Game 1, but now they make a big impact in Game 2 with number 3, 12 points to their name. Nasky Strafedale, who were in a second place position, actually second place position Game 1. They're now in fourth again, so 2 great performances from them. North, who we mentioned, had a good performance Game 1, finds himself in the top 5, and then you go down 33%. Chicken Nuggies, BDS Esports, Alliance staying involved, Click Esports we've been talking about, and Lazarus as well. So Hotsick, let's talk about, the elephant in the room here, or the lion in the chicken den, I guess, which that's just a scary thing to think about. Lions, that's not a fair fight. Let's talk about AHG, man. The top 8, they went crazy. What was happening with them this game?
I mean, they were just doing, aside from the clutch early on, which I didn't get to see personally, from the fights that I saw them take, they beat Na'Vi in the beacon building right near where the circle ended, and they made short work of them. I'm not sure if we have any footage of it, but you saw the Gibraltar using his dome just to break the line of sight of the Watson fences that were guarding the door, just enough for them to dip in and out of the door and get some easy shots on them. And that's one of the strengths of Gibraltar that most people don't really take into account, is just how easy it is to siege a Watson building, just throwing his dome and cutting off that line of sight from the fences. Just overall really good team fighting from them. I mean, they were hitting their shots easy.
And that's the best thing about it, right? I mean, these guys are mechanical, but they're such great in-game leaders, and it's led them to, in the overall points for today, find a second place position. Gambit still number 1 after a great performance for both games here, leading by 5 points. But CHMK with their win in Game 1, Nasky Del Strafe with their second place, and I believe their 4th place here in Game number 2 and Game number 1, respectively. And Click Esports, we've been talking about them staying in the top 5 here. But there's still a lot of teams involved. Really, the difference between, you look at number 5 and I believe number 11, it's about 7 points. So North, Virtus Pro, Alliance, SJP2, 33% Chicken Nuggies, Lazarus, they're all involved. And even LG, only 10 points behind pretty much top 5 here. So Hotsick, I mean, overall, looking at the highlights of this game, we'll have a chance to recap some of the best moments, but what's your general thoughts here heading into Game 3, looking at Game 2?
Very action-packed games. It seems a little unlike typically the EU region. If you look at that top 10, that looks like an NA leaderboard. It's a little bit top-heavy. The points aren't distributed very evenly, so a little bit different this week. I mean, they're putting on a really good show. The games are fantastic to watch already.
Now, I think when you look at this, the conversation around weapons, we've talked about the Sentinel. EVA 8 still seems to be doing really well in these close quarter moments. We saw that actually proving vital for Nasky in that final clutch in Game 1, where he was able to get a lot of damage off, get a first initial knock there on a CHMK, who would eventually take the win. But we're seeing knockdown shields actually have maybe some of the biggest impact in both of these games. It saved, obviously, AHG from a 5th place finish to a 2nd place finish because of the cover, the self-revive in the zone. And it also ended up saving and giving CHMK the win, essentially, by being able to block out Nasky from really getting out of an area that would have been turned into a lethal zone in about 10 seconds. So forced his hand to try to shoot those knockdown shields. Does it usually play this big of a difference, Hodzik, or are we just seeing something a little bit, unique in these first 2 games?
I mean, absolutely. Every pro player knows the second you go down, you're not out. As I was saying earlier, you see a lot of pros, especially, it almost sometimes gives you a benefit, especially when, say, like your Gibraltar goes down, but you still have a Wraith up. And the Gibraltar's sitting there almost like a Reinhardt with his shield up, while the Wraith gets a basically free cover to poke in and out of, popping cells, batteries, whatever she needs to. It almost can turn into an advantage. It all of a sudden makes the surviving player a lot harder to hit than normal. So it usually is always very, very strong. Obviously you don't want to go down, but it's typically very strong.
Are you saying we need to give Gibraltar a square, huge shield when he goes down, just to really buff?
I think that's what he might be missing.
Yeah,
I don't think he's strong enough. I think he might be missing that buff.
Yeah. No, I like the visual on that. I think it should cover about 12 feet in the air, 12 feet to the right. Yeah, that should be balanced and fair. But no, these knockdown shields, after the change, they've definitely made an impact. We've seen the EVA 8s do well also, and noticing a lot of Havoc shifting into this meta where again we've seen the Havoc strong. We know it's strong. We know when you have a little bit of assist on that weapon, it's much stronger as well. But the recoil is pretty easy to use for these players. Especially when they can control anything at a high level. We're seeing a lot of lowering of the TTKs, the time to kills, because of these weapons being a little bit more commonplace now, whereas energy weapons used to have a stigma that they're bad, that you can't really use them. I think that's really started to shift here in Season 4 to the common knowledge of people who play Apex Legends. But what are your eyes on where it sits? Is the Havoc like a top tier weapon that you would pick up? You would advise your guys take a Havoc over this, or how would you kind of approach that as a coach?
Absolutely. You'd be silly to not be using the Havoc right now. It's just absolutely shreds. Looking forward to hopefully be a little bit adjusted in Season 5. I think there is confirmation that it will be. But energy weapons have always been interesting. At the start of the game, they were always looked at and kind of laughed at. Obviously, they've seen a couple of buffs, but even after the buffs, people never really still picked them up. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, everyone's like, holy moly, the devotion is busted. And now it's a great weapon. Similar to the Havoc. It got a lot of buffs, a lot of changes. And it's still, even at the start of the season, it's still no one really picked it up. And only about halfway through the season, people started realizing, man, this gun is really strong. And the beauty of it is you don't need attachments for it. The stock weapon itself is strong enough to fight even at the end game. So hopefully it sees a little bit of tuning, but I do like the weapon overall as it is.
And I think, this is a great point, and we'll see things along this broadcast. And for those watching at home, part of the reason I think it's great to spend some time watching this, and when I was a player of different games and interested in getting better or teaching or learning something I didn't know, watching these competitive broadcasts is how I would pick up a lot of information. Most people playing the game don't know because they just don't necessarily watch this. There's so many millions of players playing and we have thousands watching, but that's a big discrepancy here. So you have a chance to really learn something that will improve your game, will help to pass on to players you meet in random lobbies, and of course be able to improve that as well. But I think Hodzik, I think you talked about it, man. We might have a chance to see it. The bread and Gambit coming together here.
Is
on
the
screen.
oven fired up?
Why don't you break it down? I think the oven's ready. Or the toaster.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the entire time they've been around this area, you saw them earlier by the Skyhook choke, but they were getting pinched by both CLQ and Odin gamers, and then you see them kind of work out towards this way to make sure that they are the team with their backs against the zone, being the bread of the sandwich, making sure that they are the aggressors, not the people that are just going to get torn to shreds in the middle of the fight. Really, really, really textbook battle royale gameplay. It can be tough sometimes in the heat of things because right before we saw what actually happened, they were on both ends trying to fend each team off, and then they had the wherewithal to understand we got to get out of this situation. So they pulled out to the east, and kind of let the teams funnel both into them. And they actually I was more surprised that they ended up killing both of the teams instead of the teams ended up fighting each other, which is the point.
Right.
So it kind of was best case scenario. That was just really, really, really good Battle Royale gameplay out of them.
You love to see it, man, and you love to see these teams continually progressing too, and seeing new names in the top, one for most of these games, or at least new storylines. I think we do have to, as commentators, as casters, be honest with ourselves here. There are a lot of teams we started talking about in this tournament that haven't given us a reason to keep talking about them, and so I do want to be honest with Gambit is a team really to look at right now. AHG today, they're a team to look at. I think CHMK as well, some strong performances throughout, but also Click Esports. They've been very, very consistent also. I think Virtus Pro has a reason to really need to almost step up into what we assume that they can do. A third finish, that was enough for me to start the conversation around them again and what can they do in game 3. But what are you looking from Virtus Pro specifically, Hodzik, knowing how they play, knowing what they can do, the potential on that roster, from Poland to now, was that enough of a performance to give you the green light to say, okay, these guys might be back into the form we expect of them?
Yeah, so I mean, they might not have posted up a massive game like Ad Hoc Gaming, but that's not necessarily what you need. All
Right.
that matters is that you are consistently performing throughout the entire tournament. And one strength that VP has is they are a very, very smart and a very patient team that are typically very mentally strong. So one bad game doesn't typically throw them out of the water just yet. I think one thing that, they had a very solid game, but one thing to note is when the points total of one game is very top heavy, like it was in this game.
Right.
I think it was 18 and 14 kills.
Yep.
That means that paves the way to very easily climb up the overall top 10 because there's only one or two teams getting all of the points. Now it's going to be hard to surpass them, but they can easily be in the top 5 running if they are just putting up consistent points because all the teams at the top are choking every other team out of points.
That's actually that's a good way to look at it as well. I mean, Virtus Pro, they do seem like more strategists as far as how they play, a little bit more patient. We've seen that. We've also noticed Navi in and out as far as being relevant here because after looking at Claus, talking about him earlier on in this program, Navi are sitting at game 3 with 2 points. The leader of this lobby has 33. The second place is 28. Navi has 2. What's going on with Navi? What are they not giving us here? What's going wrong with their drops and the way that they're approaching this lobby? What do they need to change?
I believe part of the difficulty is, and this is every Battle Royale player will understand this, especially the competitive ones, is that I believe they're being contested on their drop. And it seems that I think in the first game, they straight up lost the fight. And then the second game, I think they survived for a little bit longer. So I'm guessing they maybe just kind of agreed to split the loot and dip.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a struggle. A lot of teams getting contested on your drop can easily make you go from a top 5 team to, oh man, now we got to worry about this. So it's up to them to figure out how to play it. Maybe see if anything else is open, but pray that they get really good loot. Get Peacekeepers R9s on drop because that definitely can turn the tide. But if they can get any kill points off the team that's contesting them off the drop, I think that'll set them up really well.
Well, guys, it's looking bad. If our number one analyst here says the only way for you guys to do better is to pray. I mean, I think that to me says that they're in some trouble here, Hodzik. And, I agree. This is not a lobby that they're looking forward to right now as an easy walk, an easy coast. I think this is an uphill battle for sure. But, hey, top 10s, top 5s, getting into the money, it's still possible, although they are really, really behind. They're going to have to step it up in game 3. So we should pay attention to what Navi does, especially since we were highlighting them earlier. A team I want to talk about too, which has kind of stayed relevant again, has a chance to have a breakout game. It's Alliance. IPN's had some struggles throughout game 1. He got down early, but they were able to do something that Onset, I think, brought up really nicely, which is when you're running a Watson Wraith Caustic and you have the ability to lose either that Watson or that Caustic, you still kind of have the best of both worlds with a Wraith giving you the chance to kind of have that mobility, get out of those tough situations, and either the Watson or the Caustic being able to support the Wraith in holding down a defensive location and kind of still as a 2-man holding your own against some 3-mans if you have good positioning.
Absolutely. Obviously, ideally you never want to have any of your characters go down before the final circle, but 2 of the biggest, Caustic, getting Caustic to the end circle means you basically win. but it's typically, if you lose one character, it's really hard to survive without a Wraith or a Watson. Obviously, the Watson for the Gen and the Wraith for the Portal. So, they can still pull out some good points. Even unfortunately losing the Caustic, but having a Wraith and a Watson is very, very crucial to the end game as well.
Well, we'll have to see how that ends up unfolding, man. I mean, great breakdown as always. We've got Hotzig with us, Rain Day here, and of course we got a tweet from Go Bucky Gaming. So thanks for using the hashtag ALGS. Gold knockdowns coming in clutch in both games so far. Hashtag ALGS at Rain Day Gaming. You guys want to tweet me, you want to tweet any of the cast members with hashtag ALGS, we may bring it up on screen, and make sure to follow not only us, but also Play Apex on Twitter, on YouTube, and check out playapex.com/ALGS if you want to know more about what we're doing competitively, what the future holds in store for competitive Apex, and where and when you can watch. Always going to keep you up to date on that one. So it's a pretty safe one to go ahead and use, I'd say. But again, gold knockdowns definitely coming in. I think storylines for me are AHG having a monster game. You see Gambit staying at the top and keeping themselves at the top is going to be their main priority. Na'Vi haven't showed up yet. Let's see if Game 3 changes that, Hotzig. And Virtus Pro staying involved after not really being relevant for those last couple of weeks. Could this be their breakout moment? So many teams, so many great things to follow up, but Game 3 is going to tell us all. So let's get ready and send it over to your casters to kick this thing off.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. It's Fallout here, joined alongside Jamerson, and we are getting ready for game number 3 as the dropship's already flying. We're jumping straight into gameplay here. As you see on screen, a dropship path that is cutting straight through the middle of the map here on World's Edge. Jamerson, what are you looking forward to most here in game number 3?
Yeah, again, I want to see if we're going to have that contest going over at Harvester, and it looks like we just might get that once more. We'll see who comes up the victor on this fight in this 50-50.
Right. We'll see where the Harvester fight goes down, as we've seen a lot of early game action over towards Harvester. We're going to jump right into the mix on Harvester to kick things off to see if we see that same exact fight we've seen happen time and time again on board of ZH right now. He's going to get tagged up quite a bit. No shields to his name just yet, so that's a little risky right now. But look at this. It's BDS with full shield for 2 of their members, and recognizing that the Gibraltar did not have shields. So you got to wonder if they're going to play here with aggression or not. It looks like they're going to slow things down just a bit.
Yeah, Commando on the other side of the firing field here is Psychop trying his best, but he needs the backup now. He's trying to take a 1v3.
Yep, EH finally found himself some shield. 1 member down. Here comes the big fight through the dome shield. 1 versus 1, and he's going to get taken out as well. ZH, last member alive with no shield to his name. Only about 50 HP left. ZH is going to clutch up when it matters the most to keep his team alive in this one. And that was crucial because they've gotten taken out early in games previous. They needed a big win there, and they got it.
Now going over to Fragment West here as we have another fight. Na'Vi versus Rabino's Backpack, and it's going to be Rabino's Backpack coming up again. And the analysts were talking about it on desk, Rain Day and Hotzig. What do Na'Vi need to do? They need to survive here in the early game. This is not a good look. It's just Claus here surviving on this Watson, and he's not going to be able to recover the banner of 9 Impulse or Faizu.
Wow. And of course, Watson's not the ideal legend that you'd want to be the last alive to kind of rat it out and try and play for late game. Looks like he's peeking back over. Maybe fake that he was running away and wants to see if he can get a revive on his teammates. I think that might be a wise decision to at least tease it, as, of course, the team that took him out, Rabinu's Backpack, should probably rotate early. Even though they are in circle right now, it'd be a wise decision to rotate early. Maybe in a ranked game or an online game, you could kind of camp those banners. But in a competitive game, rotations are so important, and I think Claus is going to realize that. But no, as I say that, looks like they actually are camping the banners, so they're going for the age-old strat. It's Rabinu's Backpack that's not letting Claus pick up the banners of his teammates.
Yeah, and that's Claus going down to a win, and so Na'Vi will go down. EDS and Na'Vi going down early once again. EU's early game has been super volatile now, as we can see the circle already pulling over to the northeast sector of our map here, as Nasky, Strafe, and Dell. Another team that do drop in the Fragment area, they do drop Fragment East. And with the fact that they do get that banner from that Pathfinder, they're able to make these rotations early on. They are getting challenged, as it looks like they want to try and make a play for the stacks. We'll see if they can actually get it, but a team might already be there contesting them. Dell's going to swap it up to make it over to, possibly over to Dorito or the 2-story.
And they love this fight because they're not going to get third party here. Chances of a third party are slim, so they have a clean 3v3, which I know Nasky, Strafe, and Dell love the idea of. So they're going to get some early shots in. I wonder who they're fighting against. We know that LG used to like to drop Refinery. They haven't been dropping here this game yet. We will see momentarily as the fight is about to break down.
Yeah, there is a third team here, though. North are already inside the main building of the Refinery, so they have to make sure that they take this fight quickly without any trades, getting some decent damage off wild.
Well said. Looks like they're going to do exactly that. They're going to down one. It's going to be Sinku. Another kill is going to come in for Nasky. It's going to be Spinella, and that's going to be it. The 3-team wipe. Nasky, Strafe, and Dell do it again, and they get themselves a great position as a result.
Yeah, that PP squad is going down now. 3 teams already out, and we said that we were expecting EU to be a little bit slower here, a lot more teams surviving throughout all of this, but it looks like Alliance are now pushing into this position.
And I've loved the way that this Online Tournament 5 has played out with the aggression in EU. We've always known that EU has the mechanical skill. They have some of the most gifted individual players. Of course, many players that come from traditional FPSs. We know it. Claus for Na'Vi, for example, came from Quake. He is so high mechanically skilled. EU has the skill. They just play smart. They play for rotations. They don't make bad decisions. They don't make mistakes, which is why we don't see a lot of early aggression typically. This has been a completely different story here in Online Tournament number 3. We've seen such aggression. We've seen that skill really play out in the form of getting early kills early on. And it's actually been so crucial, Jamerson, because despite a team like Nasky, Strafe, and Dell getting second and then getting fourth, they're in third or fourth place in the overall leaderboards. They're in fourth place in the overall leaderboards because they haven't gotten the kills to result. So this has played out very much like we're used to seeing in North America or Korea, other regions that play aggressive. We're seeing the same type of thing from Europe here, from teams like Ad Hoc Gaming and Gambit, dropping 15 plus kills in their respective games.
Speaking of Ad Hoc Gaming, it looks like they might be in a fight once again with SJP2 here over at Skyhook right now as Matafe is going to push forward. They were able to get Kuya back up, and they're no strangers to trading away. Matafe has been clutch in these last 2 games for his team, especially in game number 2. Now SJP2 on the low ground here. They're huddling, and it looks like they might be sandwiched.
And such a great shot right there from Matafe. He does not miss as he connects for at least 250 damage there in the matter of seconds. Can they capitalize? Will they get the down? Yes, they do. They get 2 knocks on SJP2. The skill is showing true right now. This AHG squad hitting every shot at medium to long range and punishing SJP2 for being in a bad position. It's exactly how you want to play that. They easily could have let SJP2 retreat. If they would have missed a couple shots, this would be a much different story, but instead, Ad Hoc Gaming clutches up with 2 kills.
That's 2 games in a row now that SJP2 have not been able to win out their fight against AHG, and it's surprising that this fight takes place over here in the north side of Skyhook. Generally not a place where you see a lot of fights going on, especially when the circle's already pulling this hard to the northeast. Teams have already made the rotations on over. To see teams lagging out all the way over there on the northwest part of the map, very strange indeed. Now on board with Gambit, as we are back over here at Refinery, we see a lot of times that teams just divvy up and split this main building. You can have easily 5 to 6 teams just ratting it out in here.
Yeah, and that's interesting because perhaps it's the Gibraltar effect, Jamerson, because we did have a few Gibraltars in that fight, and of course you don't have that early info that the ring is going to pull all the way to the northeast. A lot of teams fighting in a different location. So interestingly enough, they did not rotate early, and it cost them. Matafe, we all know how great he is, a huge streamer, personality, and top player. Plays with war paint on his face quite literally because he loves to fly. Meanwhile, it's North and team that are putting themselves in a pretty rough spot here in this fight. I believe we're over towards Refinery.
Yeah, they traded, but the difference is that there's a Gibraltar bubble on the other side, and so Jukes is going to be brought up super quickly here. Now they have the initiative, but it's the other squad, the third party's Hard Decky from the other side, taking out EGXR.
Oh, great shots coming in from Hard Decky. We saw Gambit Esports get quite a few kills in game number 2. I think they dropped about 15 or 14 kills. We know the skill that they have. And it looks like 3 teams right now in Refinery just kind of posting up, trying to get their respective position. We know Nasky, Strafe, and Dell are just northwest of them. You got to be careful for them as well.
Yeah, I believe Alliance is also holding very similar to how they took their win in online tournament number 2. Zave's getting a nice portal into Dorito, and that's where they're playing right now, next to Nasky, Strafe, and Dell. And so those are the 2 teams that are in the northern part of this circle currently. And as we are on board with Gambit, North can really thank their lucky stars that Gambit came in for the third party, or at least poked away to try and stop that push to keep RPR alive there.
Yeah, it's a great point. That honestly kept kept North and RPR alive entirely. What's interesting though is the decision from none of these teams, North, Gambit, or anyone, even though they had 1 or 2 knocks, to not go for kills. Again, EU is just known for playing the right decision, the mechanical textbook decision. I think in other regions we may have seen a little more aggression. We may have seen a fight there. Jamerson, in your eyes, is that the right decision not to push?
100%. We can already see like how big the third party is and how quickly it can happen. And so the teams that do try and get very aggressive, if you don't get 2 knocks or unknocked very quickly and are immediately able to kind of pounce upon that, you've lost your opportunity. There's a window of maybe 2 to 3 seconds to really try and capitalize off of your knocks. After that, it's you have to just cut it and end it there and just move on and make sure that you're maintaining your position above all else.
Yeah, you can't beat that logic from a man, Jamerson, who drops logic on the regular. So there you have it. Please, competitive Apex players that push me in ranked all the time, please stop pushing every chance you get, because third parties are too strong and you'll get punished. You see it from the pros, and you heard it from Jamerson himself. The reason that no team pushed right there, Gambit, North, etc., was for fear of third party, which is so crucial in this late game. If it's early game, like Nasky, Strafe, and Delta push that 3 versus 3, that's before there's a lot of rotations. You could take that fight. But towards the mid to late game, you don't want to take those fights because the third party is going to be there. Nasky getting some nice cheeky wall bounces here. I'm a big fan of that.
Quick update. We did get to see that AHG took out a few members from SJP2, but SJP2 were able to res back into this now, and so we do have everyone basically full squads running around as trios currently, and I'm surprised that AHG weren't playing a little bit more gatekeeper here, as on board with Gambit. That Wraith quickly noped out of that position.
Yeah, the Wraith's not going to come back through. It looks like the gate's going to be destroyed, but probably still would not be a wise decision. A interesting portal decision. They would have tried something absolutely crazy there if they would have taken that portal. Instead, looks like Gambit will maintain control of the high ground in the major warehouse. Gambit in a pretty good position here once again to go big in game number 3. And I gotta say, Gambit's been the best positioned teams in my eyes in game 1, 2, and 3 again. They didn't necessarily get the points or the placement they would have wanted in game 1, as they got taken out in the rotation, just kind of got caught in the fire. Game 2, we know what they did with the first place finish and 15 kills. We'll see what they'll do here in game 3, as SJP2 is going to put themselves in a pretty bad spot.
Wow. Really great portal, though, coming out from Denze to get them into the safety of Survey Camp now. The full reset here as they're getting naded out. You got to be careful. Denze, he just popped that battery. But I'm surprised. AHG had pinged them as they were coming out from that tunnel, that AHG didn't try to play a little bit more aggressive on them, try to get that KP. It's going to be Click that was challenging SJP2 over here.
Yeah, and again, we talked about it earlier. Matafe and his war paint on his streams reflects the way that he plays in game. He is an absolute warrior, as he loves to push, play aggressive. We see it in his streams all the time. We see it in his gameplay. He is one of the flashiest, most passionate, energetic, and fun players to watch. Make sure to check out his stream if you have not yet. Matafe of AHG has cemented himself as a top streamer and a top player in Europe.
Back on board, Click. We saw them in this position earlier in game number 2 here. We were talking about it with that Gambit kind of standoff along with the third team. I think it was Odin's. So this time around, though, Click should have an isolated fight out here on the western side as they spot one out going into the portal.
Yeah, they're going to get a couple shots in. Decide not to chase that portal, which is the wise decision. Does not have his teammates nearby, so he tried getting a pick on the rotation. That's a smart play. Just going to swing left, put himself in a high risk, high reward for sure, as his teammates weren't with him. But he tried to get a pick. When you're a Wraith, you can play like that. You can make those decisions. That's one thing I love about Apex is each legend is kind of like a different role. You have a Slayer, you have a support. Everyone has to be able to shoot their gun and play well in terms of accuracy, but you can play differently depending on what legend you're playing as. They're going to slow down here quite a bit.
Already lost Benji. Isolated fight. This is huge. If they can force him out of the bubble now, but they're not pushing together as a team. There we go. The flank comes in.
It's like the push going to come through. Last member alive is going to be SJP2. Corin right now. He's going to get tagged up quite a bit. Loses all of his shields in 1 versus 2. Needs to clutch up. He takes out one finally. The flank is going to come through. It's actually going to be a third party from way downtown. And SJP2 gets taken out, but so does one member of Click at the hands of Kuya.
That was AHG able to come in, and they had this great position here on the western side of the circle. They're able to just look down. That's kind of what I wanted to see out of them earlier on. Play a little bit more gatekeeper, play a little bit more aggressive, watch their backs and clear that out. Especially is the fact that they are playing kind of that edge game style now. On board with Rondon, Clone, and Bokarn here. As they have a great position. I honestly like this position, and I think this was one of the points that we talked about, how we're not seeing as many teams play here on the top of the hill. It's a position that has lost some paper for whatever reason, but I think it is an absolutely strong one.
Positioning, especially in these late games, is key. High ground and the ability to leverage rocks as cover. On board with the AHG now. We were just on board with 33% Chicken Nugget. Again, favorite team name of mine, personally at least. It's Clone and Co. Actually got knocked, was in a little bit of hurt, but was able to rotate at the hands of AHG. So AHG is right on their flank here. I'm loving this, observing that we get nice good view of AHG trying to hunt Clone and Co. That 33% Chicken Nugget. They're getting some good shots in, but they're just going to kind of back off that initial fight off 33% Chicken Nugget. Instead, just kind of play their lives and try and survive because they're getting third party from themselves.
Yeah, it's Click coming in here, taking out the defense, and now it's a 3v2. Click, they're going to be able to get that kill onto Kuya now. It's all up to Matafe.
Yeah, Matafe's still up. Kuya's going to get taken out. That's going to be Zipit dead as well. So Matafe, last member alive of Ad Hoc Gaming. Not the game 3 they would have liked as they exit early with 16 squads left. I thought one member of Click got taken out from AHG earlier, so I'm not sure if a res came through or what exactly happened, but Click gets some revenge on the poking that AHG was doing earlier. And now, on board of X-Ronnie, Rugby, and Sanya, CHMK, former Crow Crowd team that played very well. I think they got top 4 and online tournament number 4. They're kind of a team that we don't talk about too often. We kind of tend to sleep on them a little bit, but they're a top squad. They have lost 0 motivation. He's no longer being part of the Crow Crowd organization, and they've been playing incredibly well here so far in online tournament number 5.
Yeah, what I do want to say about that last play was that, I talked about AHG need to make sure that their back is clear. They know that teams are coming from that, but instead they prioritized pushing forward and trying to get positioned for this next circle instead of making sure their back is clear. They knew Click was there. They knew they did some damage. They didn't take any kind of advantage over getting that knock and didn't do anything with it. So they got absolutely punished now as we are on board with VP taking a close fight over here at the refinery main building.
Yeah, good call. Maybe sometimes you want to play with a little bit more aggression on those rotations. If they would have pushed that fight, they might be in a different spot here instead of kind of just sitting in no man's land. So, well said. Instead, AHG dies, leaving Matafe to himself. Meanwhile, Click on the rotation in a bit of a fight here. One member of TLQ is down to no shields. Looks like they're going to get a first knock on Malawan. Click looking for blood, looking for the last 2. They're just going to kind of clear out wide right. Looking for angles. They know someone's playing sneaky, which in Epicenter it's so easy to do. A lot of angles, cheeky rat spots that you can hide in. Meanwhile, Click can get their first kill. Take it a second.
And Matafe, during all that, went down just before we even hit that crest of 15 squads left. So they're not going to get a point off of that at all, as Click going to be able to finish off another squad here, and they are starting to rack up points. Taxi now at 5 kills here, really kind of stealing the crown, almost literally, away from Ad Hoc Gaming.
That is so incredibly true. Taxi was like the predator hunting the prey right there. That's one thing you love about Pathfinder. Again, if you run Gibraltar, you don't have a Pathfinder who can hunt and play aggressive and close the gap so quickly, thanks to his Q. Now, on board with Jay Savage, Roger Bodger, and the Lazarus squad.
Yep, this is a nice little corner that they find out here. Gibraltar throwing down the bubble super early as they try to push it. Now 3v3, 1 knock going down onto Polkar.
Now Jay Savage is going to want that Arc Star back, as he easily could have stuck that individual if he took his time, but it's not going to matter. His teammates are going to clean up instead. Big fight going on over here with X-Ronnie and Co. Rugby, X-Crow Crowd. CHMK in a tough spot. They're going to somehow stay alive. Well done by CHMK, but it's not over yet. They are tagged up. Will the third party come through, or will they heal up? It looks like the latter, as they're going to get their health back. Going to try and revive X-Ronnie if they can. Just trying to survive right now.
Yeah, that ward. They're going to be super aggressive off of it, but it looks like the aggression just not enough coming out from LG here. They're going to go ahead and back off. They weren't able to take advantage of it, and like I said, 3-second window. That's really all you really get in a lot of these fights. And if you don't win out that fight initially off those 3 seconds, then you just have to back out because there's still so many teams alive. 12 squads remaining here as North find themselves in a little bit of a scuffle as well.
Yeah, we did see Nasky Strafendell go down. At least one member of Nasky Strafendell was Nasky. And then we also saw a member of Split go down to the hands of X-Crow Crowd. So now big fight going through. It's going to end with Urban & Co. in a massive position against NAC. As it looks like they're going to get the first knock, and they should be in a good spot to reset.
Yeah, Yeah, Rapido backpack starting off well. Remember, they got those early KP over at I believe there was they were the team that fought Na'Vi at Fragment West, and so they need to really leverage that and try and bring it into the lake and pick up more. But DMB is going to go down as X-Kufu has to back away.
Kufu trying to support his teammate who's getting revived. Looks like the revive's going to come through, and the good shots are going to come through as well. X-Kufu getting great position shots as the zipline jump kept that individual alive right there. Gambit is still alive. Gambit put some good shots here across map, as we see on the top right of our screen. So Gambit with a great game too, in a great position here. They continue to roll.
Let's go this way.
Yeah, Ravenu's backpack really picking up kind of the leftovers there as Alliance and Nasty Strafe and Dell were fighting. And Nasty Strafe and Dell, they were just having a difficult time trying to navigate all the caustic gas there, and they were ended up getting picked up by Ravenu's backpack. Up on top with Gambit here with the high ground. They might have a sliver of the circle in here. No, it actually pulls away from the building, so they'll have to come up with a plan to try and get onto the low ground after this. We'll see how well they can navigate this next circle.
Currently on board with Gambit, who's been so well positioned throughout the entirety of this game. They've just been sitting top warehouse and maintaining that position, getting some good shots cross map. This is a favorable position for Gambit as they're getting picks cross map. Leogri's going to take that one. He's going to get some good shots in cross map again. 10 squads remain. Alliance still alive, but it's Leogri who's just reigning on their parade. Let's go ahead and
Они не поймут, не услышат, не поймут.
Осторожно, там уже два может быть, аккуратно. Я хилюсь.
Уйди обратно. Ушел.
Все, забей.
Зону чекайте, она прям
Мы можем на зипке кататься вообще. Да, мы можем на зипке кататься, и нас не убьют. Нам
Да,
надо
можем,
контролировать.
от меня поставь,
Да.
будем кататься.
So Gambit tried to take advantage of Alliance getting that one knock here. IPN going down as well. They want to make sure that this caustic team is out of it. And that's huge. Getting that knock means that IPN cannot set up barrels for this next circle, which would be huge coming in as they want to close this out. There's 10 squads left, 28 players remaining.
Heard the Russians listen in, so a little ode to our Russian fans out there. Good shots coming from Gambit. And they just continue to roll. Meanwhile, OS getting a couple kills. Here's OS in a tough spot right now. 3 versus 3 under the bridge, right in a big fight. Getting some good shots. He's going for the finisher. He's going to connect for some shield. Meanwhile, Gambit's in some duress of their own. Missing a couple of wingman shots, but he's going to punch him while dropping. Then connects for the zip line. What a play from Leogri. He is content just flying around right now and waiting for every team to fight it out in the low ground. Huge plays come in for Gambit. Meanwhile, 5 squads left. The number is just dwindling. Fight is low ground right now. Artico's still alive. He's going to force Alliance to bleed out. Sorry, not alive, but he's going to get a bleed out kill. Rugby gets a kill of his own. CHMK somehow still alive. Finally gets taken out. ZMB gets shut down as well. Guess who's still high ground? It's Leogri watching the fight go down. 2 squads remain, and Leogri, thanks to a clutch decline, is going to secure himself a second place finish.
Wow, that was huge coming up for Gambit there, but it's going to be, of course, CHMK taking a huge win there, picking up a lot of kills, and we talked about it. That's why it's so important to make it into the late game. While you might not be super impactful, super big, and show your presence in the early game, it's about making sure you make it to the late game there, pick up as many kills as possible, and we'll see what they do to the leaderboard after a victory like that.
Yeah, what a finish. I mean, that shakes things up for MK's positioning, at least in the leaderboard standings. But again, you got to think Gambit is so well positioned to continue to roll with this online tournament. They were in first place already, I believe, going into this one. And now with a second place finish and high kills, they're in even better position going into game number 4. Gambit continues to impress. CHMK, however, ex-Crow crowd, who got top 4 in our last online tournament, they continue to play so incredibly consistent and so incredibly well in our online tournaments. My hat has to go off to them as I'm looking at the score right now. CHMK first place, Gambit second, Outsiders third, Ravenu's Backpack fourth, and Alliance 5th place. So an interesting shakeup of things here in game number 3 as we saw that one end towards the refinery.
Yeah, and again, we saw it, the pull over towards Refinery. It's one of those circles that you just know. You see The really hard pull to the northeast from the first circle. At that point, really, do you even need a Pathfinder? Everyone at this point knows that it's going to pull over there. Now it's just kind of the finer things. Having that circle pull over to the southeast, to the south of the main building, not something that we see as often, especially when you watched a lot of the NA games. We saw a lot of the NA games and more towards the north there and less over to the south. So that was kind of interesting in and of itself. But yeah, great performance coming out from CHMK along with Gambit.
Yeah, especially on the rotations. I know CHMK was in a lot of duress throughout their rotation. So a lot happened in that game number 3. The standings got shaken up quite a bit. What we know is Gambit continues to roll. But to break down all the gameplay, let's go ahead and throw it back to our analysts. It's Rain Day in Hotsick.
Oh my God. Hotsick, I thought we'd get a break. After seeing game 1 and then game 2, that there was no way game 3 could be more entertaining or more unusual than the first games that we talk about for our reaction. But somehow it has surpassed all of my previous thoughts on what we could have seen. The zipline of time. I mean, that might have been the greatest zipline of all time. Unbelievable stuff. I don't know how Gambit does it, but again, they find a way when it seems like all hope is down to go from 7th to 2nd place here in this game. What was your thought when you were watching this play?
Not only was that the longest grapple I think I've ever seen, but as soon as it connected, my eyes were just glued to the kill screen or to the kill feed and the squad counter just to see how many points he was going to salvage. And I expected him, obviously, to get a couple placements, but I did not expect him to get the second. That was a massive cranium play to get there.
And, kind of what's amazing about it is just the, this final moment that occurred, obviously, with these players. You see, it was Alliance who was having such a difficult time, I think, kind of getting away from Gambit earlier on. And that's one of the bigger conversations I wanted to talk about, just how well Gambit focused Alliance and how well they made sure that there wasn't that contest heading into this final circle when it was moving in. But it was really just too much, I think, from CHMK as far as shielded up, 3 Evo shields on their name. And I think we're going to get Hodzic back in just a moment. But you look at 3 Evo shields and you look at the way that they were able to move CHMK. And that brings us to where we were finding this team consistently performing. Now, I mean, you go back to these stats and you see CHMK were actually number 3 with 25 points, I believe, heading into this one. And that only goes to show that this is going to shake things up quite a bit as far as our top 5. But we are getting very, very close to checking out what it is going to look like as far as this game 1 results, because we know Gambit pushed up, but we don't exactly know how far CHMK made a lead as far as taking first place. Were they able to, was Gambit able to, with that 2nd place finish, how many kills did they have going into it? How well were they able to maintain that? And also, of course, looking at whether there was the ability for Jamerson to show up and join me here on broadcast. It seems like he might have been able to, and I'm just checking in with you guys if you can hear Jamerson as well. Can you hear him?
Yeah, I actually forgot to unmute myself, and so there we go. And that was such a crazy game. That was absolutely insane.
And you had a chance, to be looking at this moment live. What was your reaction looking at that grapple, that zipline, man?
That was huge, especially surviving in that late game. Very few people now really look out for that Pathfinder grapple, right? It was a trick that a lot of people knew, and it was overused. Every team used it. That was kind of like the end game setup. You set up the Pathfinder grapple along with the Wraith portal, and you try and juggle all of those and try to survive throughout that scramble. And I think now a lot of people have kind of forgotten about the simple fact that you need to look up, right?
Right.
Because that's huge.
Right.
Surviving throughout those last 7 teams remaining there and basically getting free points and letting the lobby do the work for you was huge for Gambit.
I never thought I could be like more invested in a moment, but when he fell down and he threw that grapple up, I felt like I was reaching out. I felt like I was, I forget what her name is. Was it Kate? Was it Kate Winslet or something? And Leonardo DiCaprio falling down into the ocean in Titanic, just don't hold on, let me just reach. And they finally, he hit it, and I almost felt this sense of, oh my God, that was it. That was the play. So amazing to see not only what that means, but also how that impact happens as far as your placement points. And we talked about it here. Great decision making throughout Gambit. They focused IPN and the Caustic squad, but here's that moment we're all talking about. Just the grapple of time with meteor showers falling down. It's something that you would expect out of a AAA action.
Yeah, when you wish upon a star, you get a few extra placement points there. But that was huge. Like you had mentioned, it making sure that first they cleared their back, and if they hadn't done that, it could have just been game over right then and there. But for the simple fact that they all had the presence of mind to turn around, take out the squad that was running up behind them, and then somehow still surviving with one player left and getting that grapple play. Honestly, I want to see that in the Season 5 trailer. That should like instantly make it in.
Absolutely. I don't know who does the trailer gameplay because you know what? There's always been a big like joke I've had with my audience. It's like, who's doing this? Who's shooting 360 behind the back? No scopes with like these snipers or these weapons that lose midair accuracy. Who is doing it? It might be Gambit. We might not know. It could be Gambit at this point filming these trailers. Make sure to check that one out. Coming out in Season 5 trailer May 5th, 10 a.m. on Play Apex is YouTube. Do not miss that one. They're doing a really cool thing with YouTube in the way that they do their premieres. It's really hype, really fun, and I think it gets the community engaged. But we have Game 3 results coming up just in a moment for you all. We're going to bring it up on your screen, and we'll see here. CHMK found a way to get that W, Jamerson. 15 kills. This is close to the highest game we have seen today. I think it's 1 point off, while Ravenous Backpack end up taking number 2. Gambit Esports with a 14-point game, 3rd place after that play. Click and Outsiders rounding out that top 5.
Really want to make it in to the top, and I expect CHMK with a performance like that, with a performance like they had in game number 2, they'll be in a really good spot in the top 5.
And I think this is going to set us up for a great game 4 and a great game 5, because you're looking at Nasky's Strafe Del, they had a great performance again, but it wasn't enough to get a lot of points. But you saw they were in top 9. What we're seeing here, and I think Hotzik brought this up, and we'll see him the next segment as well, is when you look at these top teams taking so many of these points, Jamerson, it does leave these 6, 7, 8, 9 place teams pretty much without anything. So as CHMK, Gambit Esports, and Click are kind of pushing their way up, all these other teams aren't really having a chance. I mean, even Alliance, who's been hanging in there, only 4 points this game. That has got to hurt as far as them hoping to get a first place like they got a few weeks back with that Caustic lineup.
Yeah, middle of the pack is going to be very contentious here at the point, as it is very top heavy currently, I think, amongst our points so far. So if you want to break it into the top 10, remember, that's where you place into the money. You do still have a shot there right now. I believe just before this, it was maybe like a 2-3 point spread between like 7th and 13th place, and so there's a lot of opportunities to still try and make it into the money. I mean, we still have 2 more games, so we can see a monstrous performance coming out from any of these teams.
Well, it's a great job, man. I think, you saw this game, so the highlights rolling out, there were so many great moments. What stood out to you, not only from what we're going to see here on screen, but in your particular impact? Was it the early fights that we saw here happening with Nasky and Strafe, or what else stood out?
This was huge that they were actually able to win out this fight. What really went against kind of Nasky, Strafe, and Del was that fact that Alliance took position north of them there, and so that rotation really did hurt for them because they had to push through Caustic Bubbles. But that one was huge. Ad Hoc Gaming had a huge game in game number 2, but then they kind of forgot their fundamentals there, didn't watch their back, didn't clear it out. Click were able to clean them up for free, and that should not have happened to AHG.
And CHMK, I mean, we got a lot of abbreviations here, but I think CHMK, fantastic performance. We had a little bit of a listen in, I believe, with Gambit, but right now, Gambit's the one who's got to try to listen in to CHMK, figure out what the heck are they doing and how can we stop it, because it's 5 points away now that CHMK, with that win, has pushed the overall standings in their favor. First place for them in Gambit, number 2 right behind. Ad Hoc Gaming, though, in 3rd, but that is a big difference, and this is what we've been talking about. I'm hitting it again with what Hotzik mentioned. It's getting farther and farther away between the top 2 and, of course, what we're seeing with 3, 4, and 5, which is Nasky, Strafe, Delt, and Click Esports right behind them. And you see Virtus Pro, teams like that, falling a little bit lower with even 16 points to their name. Jamerson, we're going into our 4th game pretty soon. Before we toss and we get to that conversation, anything you're looking out for in game 4?
Again, we're looking towards CHMK and Gambit Esports. Entering into game number 3, CHMK, we're trailing behind Gambit Esports by 8 points. And now they have about a 5-point lead, I believe. I didn't really do the math there, but they are now in the lead. And so that was a monstrous game number 3. And with CHMK continuing to play as consistently as they are, no one can really just forget about them. They have to keep CHMK in mind.
All right, well, CHMK, they're at the top of the leaderboards. We'll see if it can stay that way here. If you guys want to stay tuned, make sure to tweet out #ALGS. I see you guys tweeting at me, and also at PlayApex. Make sure to follow on YouTube and Twitter. That's it for us now. Let's get into game number 4. See if CHMK can maintain their lead or if Gambit have something up their sleeve.
Hey, thanks so much, Randy and Jamerson. Onset, you and I have been pretty excited to get into this game number 4 just because the results so far have been pretty wild. We'll get into those throughout the entire game, but I think the one thing you and I are definitely looking forward to see is if in 4 games, across
I don't understand how.
For 3, 1 sec, because I have people yelling at me here in Discord. Thank you. In game number 4, if we're going to continue to see the same drops across the first 3 games.
I mean, I would hope to see some different ones because there's a couple of teams who have really kind of sabotaged their own tournaments by not putting their egos aside. There's been contention every single time, almost immediately off drop at Harvester between BDS and Outsiders, which has inevitably meant that one of the two has been dropping and not being able to put points on the board. So keep an eye on Harvester, see if that battle goes down, because if you want to get points on the board, if you want to put yourself in the money, you have to be playing the game and getting tested off drop, and not being able to mix up where you're going to drop if you are losing those battles is certainly going to affect you. But VP, they're the team we're going to be watching off the start here, and they've been pretty consistent in finding their way towards that end game. No huge performance to speak of so far as far as an enormous kill points, but once again, Andy, we are seeing this battle, the same repetition, the perfect example of insanity from these teams, and just repeating the same thing. It means one of them's going down, and it means that one of them is not going to put points on the board.
Absolutely, and once again, I mean, we have never seen in professional Apex Legends play across the 4 games now, teams continuing to drop on each other and trying to win these battles, as now we're looking at BDS trying to fight through it once again. We'll see if they'll be able to get out of this one.
Yeah, still 20 squads remaining, still a fight going on, and not only is this a fight where someone's going to lose, and at the moment it's looking like it might be BDS as 2 players are dropping, it also means you're wasting time off your potential rotation, right? You're not going to be able to get yourself into a good position towards the end game. One of these teams had to back down, in my opinion, and unfortunately they're not going to be doing it, and yeah, it's going to be BDS winning the battle, and it's going to be Outsiders. Well, they're put into the outside of the placements at the moment.
That's going to be, once again, Commanda here is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, the team that's going to win that battle here at Harvester. They will take that one, and these 2 teams, BDS and Commanda, essentially trading back and forth. And like we said, not something you see all the time, but speaking of early battles now, let's go ahead and switch all the way over here towards the bottom of the map, even further in Dome, as we take a look at the battles that are taking place down here. And now it's going to be all up to Rondon trying to fight through for his team.
Excuse me, it was Commander, as you said, Andy, just a slight correction from what I was saying there, wrote the wrong name down, but we are seeing this battle go on early again, and towards the latter games in tournaments, maybe we will see a few more early fights, just because of the fact that teams are going to have to put KP on the board. There might be an option to drop on a team and try and catch them off guard, just to get those early KP, take them out of the equation if they're a team that's in front of you, and maybe put a game together yourself, which is a high KP game. And an example for that can do to you is what we just saw from CHMK in that last game, a 27-point game from them, slingshots them above Gambit Esports here by just 5 points, but a huge performance in a game really can bump you up that leaderboard, and it set us up nicely for this game number 4.
And I tell you what, if you have been a fan of Apex and hoping to see some more early aggression where teams do consistently drop on each other and try to, and really dropping on each other isn't the right way of saying it. I think both of them in that battle that we're talking about between BDS and Commanda, they're simply both dropping Harvester and really not dropping on each other so much as trying to ego each other off of what they each think is their drop. And this is really the first time we're seeing that, especially in ALGS play. As commentators, as analysts, we've been hoping to see a little bit more early game and teams being even more confident to try to get that. And then we're certainly getting that, which is in Europe, which is interesting just because, as we were talking about while we're watching the games with Rainbay and Huntic, oftentimes the story for Europe is very different with anything but early aggression. However, it's been a very different online tournament number 5. Now looking at Click once again, now Portal coming in here from Yuki.
Yeah, moving in towards the circle. You can see it's pulling it down towards the southwestern side of the map here on World's Edge. So you're going to see teams rotating through. We also have the opportunity here on Click to see that Pathfinder beacon. So it will be moving down towards the station and the lava area of the map. And it looks like they're in a pretty good position early on from this rotation to set themselves up for a nice spot as we move towards the second circle. The question is, are the teams that are going to be rotating from the north of the map be able to move quick enough and avoid all of the battles on the way to get themselves a nice spot as well?
Yep. Taxi's going to grapple fly right up back to that tree choke coming in from Thermal. They're going to make their early rotation all the way over to tree. It's going to be a fast one for them, considering they were dropping Thermal as well. Now Taxi finding one player, really good damage there. Going to lead all the way through, but the scout shot's not hitting. And luckily gets that. Not a great hit percentage there on those shots. Eventually, though, we'll be able to get the swap as well as that kill. That's going to be on the side of Lazarus.
Lazarus go down. It's going to be Click who managed to pick up those kills. KP on the board for them as well. And there's more action going down now towards Harvester once again. And yeah, no surprise to see Harvester being a real interesting POI on the map. Being so central, so many teams going to be rotating through there a lot of the time. But Naski, Del, and Strafe set up around the tree area of the map. You can see where this looked like it is pulling pretty hard from that Pathfinder beacon as well. So once again, a really solid early rotation from this squad, and that's been the key for their success so far in these games.
Yeah, I also want to talk about Luminosity still in sorting at this point. Also taking a look, Na'Vi making their, right now they're just out about Harvester South. They're making their way over as well. A lot of teams have already gotten really far south to Dome. Going for those dome corners, of course, as we see this pull, we've seen this end circle in ALGS play quite a bit, as well as teams are going to get ready to have to fight through some very interesting low ground just below sorting, just north of that dome choke, and right around also tree, just to the northeast of tree, still considered tree proper now. Once again, back on board with Taxi, him and Clicker sitting comfortably up on the tracks.
A nice aggressive push here from Taxi as well, and it looks like they're desperate
say,
for KP, trying to get those push on the board.
I was going to say, I'm not sure if Taxi meant right away to grapple straight down there. It does find immediate additional damage upon doing so. However, it looks like they might be okay and able to get a nice job there and make sure the door did not close from Baker, as he's able to pick up that as well. Now 17 squads left.
Well, 17 squads left, still a few players alive in the team that were being chased here by Click Esports, and they're going to be flying at the moment. It looks like Click have kind of got the bit between their teeth in this game. They're going to get the finish on this down player as well, and still 17 squads remaining, so there still is a player who is skirted about above them, and you can see the shots going in there from the flat line with that 2x on as well. Means that he's going to be forced to back down onto those train tracks. But when you're in a position, like I said, in Game 4, I think it's a smart play if you're chasing the pack to be more aggressive in Game 4 than leaving it all to Game 5. If you get some KP on the board in Game 4, or if you fail in what you want to do, at least you have another game in the bag, right? Whereas if it works out for you in Game 4 and you pick up big KP, you can play a little bit safer in that game number 5 and really give yourself the best opportunity to move up that leaderboard.
Absolutely an opportunity for some risk taking, certainly, and especially if you're already sitting comfortable in terms of points going into game number 4. SJP2 is making a late rotation now through Mine Pass coming out of train. We'll keep an eye on them as well. But one thing I do also want to point out is just, I think we saw off screen CHMK, I believe they were running 2. Not sure exactly what happened. We'll have to keep an eye on them, but just in case you didn't catch all of our games today, this is game number 4 of 5 for Europe here in our grand final. CHMK right now leading with 52 points, Gambit in second with 47, and Ad Hoc in number 3 with 31 points. It's been a great European final so far, to be honest. There's a lot of teams that we expected to be here that didn't make it, but there's so much good talent in this European lobby that is still so stacked, and we haven't even had time to even mention them because the teams that are here have made today's games and today's stories so great and so interesting. Once again, looking at Matafe and Ad Hoc.
Yeah, Matape trying to get aggressive again. And the exciting thing for me about our top 3 at the moment is the fact that all of them have had a big pop-off game where they've put big amounts of points on the board. That means as we get into Game 4, as we get into Game 5, there is still going to be the opportunity for any of those teams to leapfrog over those teams who are ahead of them if they can put that big pop-off game in. But you can see at the moment, all the teams that are involved are still very much in this game. 16 squads remaining as we have around 1 minute and 43 seconds left on this second ring. And at the moment, VP set up very central in the tree area, and they're looking pretty comfortable, pretty cozy at the moment, Andy.
Absolutely. Now looking here at PJ, been fan of this guy's gameplay for a very long time. BP, by the way, right now in 8th with 16 points. They're essentially in what is a 4-way tie, but for 7th and 10th. That's going to include North, Virtus Pro, Outsiders, and Alliance. That is your 7 through 10. A big bubble there in terms of who will actually break into that top 5 and who will sit even outside of the top 10 after these next 2 games. Once again, looking at Gambit and my oh my, have they had a performance today, one that has been so exciting to watch, especially that Pathfinder play from Leogri earlier. We saw some excellent discipline with timing the cues from Hardeki in the first 2 games as well. Been very impressed with what we've seen from Gambit. Now also Na'Vi is a team we've been watching quite a bit today, but we have to mention right now they are in 19th with 2 points. That's right, just 2 points. So they are going to need some sort of miracles in games number 4 and 5 to even exit online tournament number 5 with a respectable performance, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they expect, big things of themselves, a huge organization, one of the biggest organization in esports. Getting to the final is an achievement in itself, and we shouldn't understate that. But having got here, they're obviously going to want to put in the best possible performance that they can. But over to Click Esports here, and they're still hanging around at the station just outside of the tree area where they're going to have to rotate towards. You can see them looking towards the south side of the map at the moment, trying to locate the 2 chokes, and maybe trying to work out where they're going to be rotating to next, what kind of choke that they want to take and want to push through. See whether the less traffic is the lesser path of resistance, if you want. As you can see, SJP2 are going to be the team who are kind of set up to the southern side of where they were looking to push in that choke. So a nice high ground position from them. And SJP2, you have to say, as this ring is going to be closing, if it moves in a little bit towards them and they get a little bit comfortable, they might have the opportunity to use that high ground very much to their advantage.
Yeah, we've seen teams succeed on this high ground with tree end circles, and we've seen teams fail miserably. It's going to come down to the pressure that comes from thermal. Once they're back to thermal is safe, they're going to have a lot more options in terms of timing that push further down to the east into tree. We're definitely going to be keeping an eye on that. But as we saw, there are still teams at thermal as well, so we got to keep an eye on that. That's going to be a difficult rotation. If you still find yourself around thermal at this point and you're trying to either take a northern or a southern route, east, of course, into tree. Those are going to be very difficult routes at this time, so we're going to keep an eye on that. We're also looking here at Ad Hoc Gaming as they're going to comfortably be holding that southwest corner of sorting. This is a great place to be. It's going to give them so much opportunity and options in terms of holding this height and letting teams fly past them. They'll be one of the teams that's forced to rotate the latest. Other teams are going to come past them in sorting. It's going to be a big opportunity for them. Now, Matafe, really the vocal leader of this team, not only the IGL, but really a pleasure to watch. Of course, a lot of you will have seen his streams and the way that he approaches the game. Really love watching Matafe. Also, Zipith and Kuya, of course, can't say enough about the entire squad.
And this is a squad that's got better and better as the tournaments have rolled on and on. You saw the amount of ALGS points that they've racked up as a squad, and the addition of Kuya really has, in a lot of people's opinion, really pushed them to that next level, that dedicated Watson player that really can set up and be the anchor for their team. And he's done it extremely well. And I just want to quickly mention as well, we've been sort of checking in with the team that are top of the leaderboard at the moment, CHMK. They were set up in that truck, but they were down to just 2 players. They have lost a player, but at least they had a position which maybe they're going to be able to hold down and kind of let other teams fall around them while they push up those placement points.
Absolutely. Now things getting a little thick here. Now it looks like we're going to see IPN has to get inside as fast as he can as shots were coming in. Also has to let Hackis in, has to let the Wraith in before barrels the doors, and now they're going to heal up, going to try to get Vapes back up as well. But AHG about to make that push now on board with Zipit here. The Gibby starting to make this push. Has help from Matafe, but Matafe might have to retreat to heal just a bit. Same might happen for Kuya.
Massive fight here as well. Think of the placements here. We've got both these teams within the top 5 as well. So Hackis does get back up as well, has the gold shield. So getting your Wraith back up as you're going to have to make this rotation in around 40 odd seconds is absolutely vital here for Alliance's chances of success. And I kind of like the fact that AHG got aggressive there. They realized maybe that was Alliance. They realized they had an opportunity to maybe take them out early on as far as this game is concerned and the amount of teams that is left. So props to them. They're not backing down. They're showing real presence at the top here of Sorting Factory.
Absolutely. This is certainly a big battle here between these two sides. As Ad Hoc Gaming does have the height and the roof right now. You have to think that they're going to have the advantage unless enough damage comes in here. Matafe maybe extending over a bit. Just Kuya as well gets dropped to a quarter HP. They're going to have to dome and bat immediately right away. Here comes the line now on
fight as well.
Flying right in. PK in the hands of Hack is going to try to make something happen here, and they are currently winning this battle without a doubt, but answering back there really quickly is Matafe.
Yeah, that's the difference. The two ways of looking at that battle. You look at the armory and the weaponry that's in the hands of Alliance. They had purples, they had golds. The only problem is they had to expose themselves for a moment as they had to move up to that high ground. That allowed the first shot to come in from Ad Hoc Gaming. So it was kind of a real battle of who was going to land those initial shots to give themselves the advantage to push in, as it was fairly balanced. But now we're seeing the battle continue to go here. Alliance versus Ad Hoc Gaming. Big shot there from Matafe to take down one, and I think that's one player down per side here. Kuya, 1 HP and a dream, landing to beautiful Peacekeeper shots himself, and somehow he stays alive. Can he pull off the miracle play here for AHG?
We'll have to see if they're able to do this. We might have comms here for the side of Ad Hoc Gaming. We'll throw to those as soon as we have them, just to see if they're going to be able to talk their way out of this one. Now Kuya desperately trying to stay alive.
This is a straight 1v1 here between these two players. The red shield was holding it back for a second, but I think the third party has entered unannounced. They were not invited. Uninvited guests to the party, and that will finally be Ad Hoc Gaming taken out. Alliance still holding on though, and still with a player down, IPN, and that's the player that they're going to be desperate to get back in the game, the core stick towards this end game.
Absolutely. Now Hack is going to keep an eye on that dome, of course, as heals coming in for teammates as well.
Massive opportunity here, and it's LG, Luminosity Gaming, who were the uninvited guests to the party. They came in and stole that kill away, really kind of shot Ad Hoc Gaming in the back there. Gave him a little bit of a shock along the way, but it looks like Alliance have managed to get IPN up, and that is massive in the context of this game. We keep repeating how important it is for Alliance to get that core stick to end zone, especially with an end zone that might potentially have some open ground like the one we're on at the moment. So Alliance survived the push from Ad Hoc Gaming. They push back Luminosity. They get their core stick player back up, IPN. Alliance somehow, some way have come out of this unscathed.
Now also looking at the side of Gambit, now we still also have TP Squadron, making it a little bit later than we have seen before. Otter's forced to get that dome down. Will also be forced to Phoenix, as the Wraith is going to do a little bit of loot scouting, see exactly what he might be able to bring back in terms of goodies. And now they're going to have a moment to reset as well. They've got a good position here, but a potentially very difficult rotation out of this area. Now shots are coming in, going to be forced to TP back as well. Going to need to heal again, only 2 bats left.
The heals are coming in, but they're going to have to be moving across some pretty treacherous ground in front of them as well, as that circle is going to be moving in. The good thing for them is they are slow side of the circle, so they're not going to have to move quite yet, and they have a little bit of extra time to just scout out of position. But Alliance, once again, coming under a little bit of pressure. Caustic traps are coming off, and here comes the battle once again for Alliance. They have been in so many situations in this game, Andy, where they have had to fight off potential suitors coming in to take their spot.
Needs to be careful. IPN very low once again. Is going to be able to get a heal off, though. Hackis also gets a fast heal. And now some good damage coming out of Vapes. It's quite a ghastly area here as they're trying to fight through this, but of course the Alliance guys are going to be used to that. IPN, of course, when they're able to be front forward pushing on this door. Still going to have to get off some extra heals, and now just trying to check these corners. Able to dodge a few grenades. Looks like that Thermite is not going to stick either, so that will give them a little bit of extra time to pop some additional heals as well.
Well, Alliance under pressure here. Let's actually jump into a listen-in with the comms with Alliance to see how they get out of this sticky predicament they find themselves in.
Laddar dem. Jag kommer borta för det här, Bara gasa höger och vänster. Där, de kanske pushar nu. Laget kvar här. Han på mig. Kackan! Stockad! Jag tar den. Jag gasar dem bara. Dö inte.
And a little bit of dancing back and forth between this portal as they have opponents on each side of that portal exit. Needs to be careful. They're taking a whole lot of damage. So is Hackis once again. All of Alliance forced to heal, using quite a bit of those heals at this stage of the game upset.
Yeah, we're using the heals, but also using the gas to go out from the caustic just to push those players back who might have been able to traverse that ground ahead of them. And now the caustic can be a little bit aggressive, pushing up again, using those barrels to make sure that they can move across that ground without being contested. Big plays from the Caustic there, showing the effectiveness of having a Caustic in a lobby where no one else is playing it.
Absolutely. Taking a look at North here as they're making this trek across the very low ground between Sorting and Tree. Very difficult rotation really at any stage of the game, but especially now they're, of course, going to unsurprisingly find opponents there as well, trying to make that same exact trek across this terrain. They're going to have a little bit of cover to play against, but they need to be careful because to the south is another team, like we said, rotating and doming.
VP are picking up kills here. Alliance are going to be dropping. So Alliance, I believe, have been eliminated potentially here as they try to make that rotation in. North still holding on to this position, but they're going to have to fight off these final players who are putting damage down on them, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to do it. Machine now coming in with the Watson, and that will be North eliminated as we move over to North here from VP, and they're set up in one of the only buildings that is left within this zone.
And like we said, maybe a little bit of foreshadowing there. A very difficult trek, and they are on the receiving end. That will be North taken down after receiving a whole ton of damage. But like you said, Virtus Pro looking very good here. They're going to have an opportunity to hold this building still throughout this next minute of play. And certainly going to have the advantage as teams are going to be scurrying across this low ground just west of Sorting once again. And they end up with one of the best buildings and one of the best spots on the map. Also looking at CHMK, it's just going to be Chiron here who's going to hold down this roof. Needs to be careful trying to rat this out.
Yeah, Chiron's got to be careful here, but what a phenomenal effort. Again, I have to say from CHMK, the fact that they just lost one of their only two players who has been alive for pretty much the majority of this game as we enter the top six. If you're holding down top spot, little things like that can really swing the momentum in your favor and keep you in contention for that top spot. Look at the teams that we have left in this game. Gambit Esports still in position as well, the team who are chasing down CHMK at the moment. So the effectiveness of Rugby here as a potential rat in this game could be absolutely massive as Hardeki now moves in for Gambit Esports to take down the last players remaining from SJP2.
And look at that push from Hardeki, the confident Wraith. He flies in there with that PK out and also able to take down SJP2, like you said. Ready Evo as well. Nothing to fear at all. Just going to keep on mopping up from the height now as well. We're going to see a bleed out there from Xkafu as well. Sinku goes down from Hardeki, and man, Gambit is not afraid here. But just as quickly as I say that, Hardeki is the last one alive, and that should be it for Gambit. I believe we do see them all go down there in that push because Virtus Pro is the team that climbs up on the roof. And there, while they were finishing those kills, they become the third party, and that should be it for a VP victory as they will close out the game there in game number 4. A big win for Virtus Pro in the end. It looked like Gambit was ready to swoop, but Virtus Pro is the team that has the last lap.
But VP were the team that had the last bit of real estate that was within that ring as well. Such a treacherous path for every team to make from either Sorting Factory or the western side of the map towards that end circle. VP being set up inside that building just allowed them to sit there and wait for everyone else to fight. But for me, there's a couple of big points to make. And the biggest one that I want to talk about is how CHMK managed to sneak into, I think it was the top 6 with just 2 players alive for the majority of that game. The other one, of course, is Gambit Esports putting up big kills as well as a decent placing. So that's really going to make this final game that we have coming up so tight at the top of the leaderboards.
It really is. It does set us up for a great game number 5. As a reminder, CHMK was in first with 52 points there. So, of course, that placement that they're going to have there is going to be respectable. Like you said, top 6. I didn't see exactly where they exited in the feed, but it was certainly top 6. And Gambit was in second place with 47. So if you do the math, you have to think Gambit could be in the lead by just a few points going into game number 5. But we'll have to see exactly how the math shakes out. But once again, it was a great number 4 on set.
100%. I mean, every single game has been exciting, and I think it's just showing, as these tournaments progress and players get more and more experience, then they start to work out things that are effective for them. And the difficulty here for Alliance is I think they've struggled to get their Caustic player to the end game on a couple of occasions here. They haven't been in that top sort of 7, top 8 where that Caustic really becomes effective, and that's why they're kind of just outside that bubble at the moment. However, a big game 5 for them, Andy, and you never know. If they can get that Caustic there, they could shoot up to that first place spot.
Certainly, and they came into game number 4 in 10th place, so a respectable finish from them there in that last game. Like you said, not only sets up potentially a great game number 5 for them, but it certainly sets up an amazing story for game number 5. Right now, it really is a race between 1, 2, 3 between CHMK, Gambit, and Ad Hoc. To get us ready for that, we're going back over to the analysis desk.
Well, thank you so much, guys. Brav, Onset, fantastic job casting as always. I'm here with Hot Sick again. I got his banner, guys. Don't worry. There was a respawn beacon really close by, but just not close enough. I had to kind of wait it out, rat it out a little bit before I was able to get him. So he didn't catch the last part of the broadcast, but he's back now. Hot Sick, now that you're geared up, you're ready to go. We're in these final circles here. We're really in the final circle of today's tournament. Break down that last reaction to game number 4's ending and what we're looking at here heading into game 5.
Sorry about that.
I think
Gambit and VP, basically the ending here was all about they had the best spots in the last circle, and they came back pretty strong. VP basically had the best spot, bunkering down inside that house. Their end goal is to just turtle it out, let everybody else fight, and then they come in and clean up, and Gambit did exactly that. They had to do that. They had no other option. They fought it out, got a couple of kill points, but then VP just comes in, cleans up, and takes the win.
We talked actually about Virtus Pro and specifically how patient they were, and also that they're a team that likes to strategize and move with sometimes not the most exciting path, but a very consistent path. And that has always kind of been the temperament of Virtus Pro. And, when you look at the way that they think about the game and now play the game, as we got to see really well from our vantage point here in game number 4 here, they did allow other people to get some more KP. They allowed other people to take fights that are a little riskier, but maybe a little bit more payoff potentially if you ended up winning the game. And they sat back and said, we're going to take first place here. They have been itching for that first place, Hot Sick. But to me, this seems like more of something they're excited about, whether they got the KP they could have gotten or not. To me, this feels like catharsis for a team that in Europe has been so good for so long, but not really been claiming wins very much. To finally get that win, no matter what it took, I feel like this could really help them catapult into game 5 with a lot of confidence.
Absolutely. And no matter how the tournament actually goes, that does a huge morale boost for a team. If you drop zeros the entire tournament, but win one game, that kind of gets your mental on the right track. That kind of reassures you that you can do it. And they are a very smart team. They realize that no need for any unnecessary risks. If you have the best spot in the circle, which they did, all you have to do is kind of wait. If you can get any extra kill points, that's great. But at the end of the day, just play for the win. It is the most points of any of the other teams. So really well done by them. Very patient play.
And you look at, yourselves sometimes in your games, you try to get in aim battles more than you need to. The best spot sometimes is worth much more than aim or skill. Not to say these guys don't have plenty of both sides of that box as well that they'll be dipping into. But let's take a look at what ended up happening with the results for game 4. We've got those in for you. We'll bring them on your screen now. It was VP with the win. And that's 19 points to their name. That's a solid score. We got PP Squadron as well coming in with 18 points, 9 kills. Gambit Esports, though, staying in the race, and that's important because they are one of the top 3 teams here going for first. Alliance as well with a decent score of 10. Not a huge game. I don't think that's going to bump them into the top 1 or 2 conversation without a massive game here in game 5. But you see CHMK with a lead already, getting just 8 points. That's enough. You talk about only having to have one big win. CHMK doing everything they need to do to stay in a position to take first place and take this tournament. But you got to say Virtus Pro, making their name felt here throughout this entire lobby.
Absolutely. Hats off to them. But yeah, as I've been saying, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. CHMK obviously would probably like more points, but doing what they need to. I think one of the most notable things about this game is Alliance taking 4th with 10 points. They also took out AHG very early on in the game, so AHG did not get a lot of points this game. So that might that killing them alone and then staying alive a little bit later. We'll have to see how the overall results look, but I'm willing to bet that Alliance will move up a couple spots just because they put 10 points on and AHG didn't put any on.
Well, let's take a look at it. Alliance move into number 8, but it is a bit of a far cry from where they need to be. Yeah. 26 points for them, 60 points for CHMK. You talk about how 58 points, I believe, won last week as far as these EU tournaments. 60 points is already what we've got going into game 5. There's still a whole other game to play, and we've seen 27 bombs. This has been an exciting race between the European teams, but it looks like CHMK and Gambit have almost isolated themselves from the pack so far. You it does seem pretty impossible, I would say, for Virtus Pro or even Ad Hoc Gaming at this point to have a good enough game, and CHMK to not have a good enough game to where they could gain about 30 points on them and take first. But Hodzic, if it was going to happen, how would it happen in your eyes?
So the final game is when the crazy stuff happens. It's, the teams that are on the lower end that want to be in the money know they have to maybe pony up and do something crazy. Otherwise, they're not going to get anything. So there's always the question of, is somebody going to land on CHMK or Gambit and try to contest them? Or maybe even land on one of the teams that they know, like one of the teams in the bottom 10. If they think they can catch up into the top 10, maybe they land on a team that they think they can take out that's in like the top 10 that they can surpass. So this is typically where you see some crazy stuff happen, but the pressure's on for Gambit and CHMK. Everybody's going to be gunning for them in the lobby. Even if it doesn't necessarily make sense to fight them, they see their names in the kill feed, they see them finish a fight or something. Most teams might take an unnecessary risk just to take them out of the game.
And you see these two teams. I mean, we talk about who were the teams to watch today. And Virtus Pro was in that list. So was Navi as well. So was Alliance. CHMK, admittedly, it wasn't in that list for us. And I think this is something that we have to now adjust. They have been playing like all-stars. You talk about orgs, making different decisions, changing rosters, sometimes leaving rosters here. Well, if you wanted to come back in, Fallout was talking about it a little bit in the lobby. This might be a team to look at because they are absolutely performing. They're getting wins. They're consistent. And the only other team that I think has been at that level throughout all 4 games has definitely been Gambit Esports. If you're looking at this and we're looking through games 1 and games 4, as far as the highlights coming up on your screen in just a moment, Hodzic, take me through the moments that stood out for you for those two teams. And I think also in general in the tournament that has allowed them to gain that huge advantage in points.
Well, like I said, I mean, both teams, especially we're seeing CHMK, both teams had at least one pretty big finish. CHMK winning the first game and allowing them to basically set the tone of the entire tournament. And we saw that there. So both teams had a very big wins. And then, like I said, at the end of the day, after that, it was all about just putting consistent points on the board. And that's exactly what we're seeing. CHMK got 8 points last game, but it's enough to keep them in the running. We saw this incredible play from Gambit that got them from potentially getting wiped, I think, at 9 squads to clutching a 2nd place. That's an insane amount of points. Huge props to Leogru with that heads-up play. It's all about just putting points on the board at the end of the day.
And I think game 3, despite how exciting that was with the grapple, it also gave us a preview of these two teams going back-to-back because it was Gambit who made it through that team and that chaos to fight CHMK, although it wasn't a fair fight. He didn't fall down even. He got killed mid-air. So we'll see if in game 5, these two teams go head-to-head, essentially 1 point away, and determine what will happen as far as the victor of Europe's OT5. Kai Yukami. These games are crazy, man. He tweeted at #ALGS. You are absolutely right, brother. And, one of the benefits is that I get to narrate your tweets, which doesn't often happen. This is a service I usually charge for, but, I'm going to do it for free here just because it's #ALGS. Scooby Actual, he's going to say, these early game fights are insane. At Rain Day Gaming, at Hodzic, at Play Apex, #ALGS, #JustEU things. Ooh, I like that. What do you think about that, Hodzic? Is this the new
Put a
EU?
little bit of spice on it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't talk about North America a lot in Europe. We do, but we're really focusing on Europe right now. The idea is like they don't usually play this aggressive, do they?
No, I mean, I think you saw the last tournament was won with 58 points. And that doesn't mean that, the players are worse by any means. If anything, it means they're better and harder because more teams are putting up more points across the board. I think this is the first online tournament for Europe where we've seen a rather top-heavy side to it. So it's been exciting, man. I mean, the EU has some insanely talented players, so it's fun to see them all frag out.
I mean, to me, this has been, one of the more exciting online tournaments we've seen for Apex in general. So North America has some work cut out for them if they're going to match this. And it's setting up for a star-studded finish as well. Not only do we have two teams who have not been in this top 2 conversation as far as most of the wins, although Gambit has been the overall leader with such consistent performances, we've got a real showdown between 60 and I believe 59 points between CHMK and Gambit heading into game 5. Any team that drops on them could change the fate of the winner of this game and this tournament. Any moment that those two run across each other could be the shot, the wingman shot, the headshot, the knockdown shield that ends up giving them a victory over the other. All the little things are going to make a big difference here. And if you guys want to stay tuned for all the little things in Apex Legends and the big things, make sure to not only follow @PlayApex on Twitter, on YouTube, but also hit us up with your feedback, your thoughts, your cool moments at #ALGS, and you will be potentially featured after Game 5 on our broadcast throughout Europe and, of course, in North America. We're getting ready to toss here. So Hansik and I are going to say goodbye. We're going to send it over to your casters and kick off Game 5. Who will take the victory in OT number 5 in Europe? Let's find out.
Rain Day and Hansik, thank you so much, gentlemen, for the breakdown as always. Fallout here joined back alongside Jamerson. We're not even going to show our faces. We're going to jump right into the game as the dropship is landing and setting cross map right now. Teams are dropping. We're getting ready for game number 5. A fight is already breaking down here early on here, Jamerson.
Yeah, over at Dome, I think the first one to go down here. They had a decent game. Now it's all up to Otter and Scanello to try and keep it alive as Ronda will go off. Former teammates, now brothers fighting.
And here you have it. Big fight going to go through. Who's going to come out on top? And in the end, it is going to be F-Karn and Co. Alongside Clone and Rondon, who win the initial fight at Dome. One team dead, but guess what? More action underway as NAC is against North right now in a battle for their lives in this tournament. Looks like NAC is going to get absolutely destroyed so far, but True Ref does not want to give up this fight. Going to find himself a shield on the way. That's called as lucky as it gets, as he needed that. Currently, teasing, poking the situation, trying to get intel from his teammates who are knocked right now, trying to see if his teammates can rotate back to him. One's going to go down to the hands of a thermite grenade, make it a 2. And now North Monde and Co., RPR as well, alive and well on the campsite near Fragment East, I believe is where they're at, and they're looking to clean up this last member. It's True Ref from NAC.
Yeah, they're over here by Overlook, and they want to try and push him, but they understand that they're facing off against Gibraltar, who has a shield. Neither of them have enough HP even combined up against him right now, and so they're just going to go for the res. They've got the 2 KP here, and then they can try and keep him isolated here, make sure they keep an eye on this building. It's interesting that this fight is taking place here because we haven't seen this early game fight between these teams. North has been able to have Overlook basically for the majority of this tournament, and I believe Nyack we're dropping around Refinery, maybe even Epicenter. Not entirely too sure now. On board with Gambit Esports, 1 point away. That's what separates them from CHMK for first place here. And so it's almost a 2-way race for first here. They have an outstanding lead against the rest of the pack right now.
Yeah, Jamerson, that really is a storyline going into Game 5. Gambit and CHMK so distantly ahead of every single team. Gambit Esports, a squad that has won a championship in an online tournament. They won online tournament number 3, failed to qualify as they got 32nd place in online tournament number 4, back where they rightfully belong here in online tournament number 5. They, of course, got 13th and 8th in online tournaments number 1 and 2, respectively. So this Gambit squad, definitely a top team in the world, definitely a top team in Europe. Hasn't always had the most consistent finishes, but when they are hot, they are incredibly strong as a squad. So I'm excited to see if Gambit can get another championship victory under their belt, or will we see ex-Crow Crowd, CHMK, take their first victory in online tournaments?
Yeah, that is very important that you mentioned their first victory, because we have to remember playing under different banners in the past. OT tournament number 2, I believe, where they were so close. They ended up getting 4th place in OT2, and they didn't qualify for OT3, where they ended up 44th, but in OT4 they got 3rd. So they've been inching up and getting closer and closer. One of the more consistent teams once they do make it into the finals of having a really great placements. And now this is basically an opportunity for them to cement themselves either in 2nd or 1st. So we'll see Navi getting into an early game fight once again. They'll be able to win this one out this time around against Robin Hood's Backpack, getting some revenge there.
Yep, some early kills from Navi, and yep, revenge indeed necessary from game number 3, where they got killed early on at Fragment. They win the fight this time around, so it's really been a team fight versus team fight on that Fragment side of the map. Navi has to go huge in this if they expect any opportunity to get a top 3 or top 4 finish while on board with OS. And just to briefly talk about CHMK, you're spot on. The CHMK squad, I will rightfully say, I don't think we talked a ton about, and they're not really talked about as much as they deserve to be. One of the top teams in the world, one of the top teams in Europe, undoubtedly. I'm excited to see if the CHMK squad can close it out and can pick up an org as they rightfully deserve.
During that time, we're seeing Outsiders getting tagged up, and Katie will go down. Another one of those teams that have been very consistent in being able to make their way into finals here. They used to play, of course, with Case Swinney under Warthogs, and they kind of parted ways there. Now they're in a little bit of trouble as they turn around on this fight.
Yep, they're going to get chased. Look like the aggression's coming through. You see this so weak right now. Mistral trying to get right behind him. Thank goodness for Into the Void, but he's tagged up quite a bit on the rotation, on the turn around that corner. Decided to peek and try and get a shot in. Ill-advised in my eyes, as that got him another 40 HP down, and that's going to be his life. Outsiders is down and out in this one. The team we're talking a lot about, CHMK, still alive. We're going to jump on board with Alliance, though, in a fight towards tunnels.
And take a look at their equipment right now. Gold armor on IPN, gold armor on Hawkins here. They push forward through the tunnel here on top of Watson. That's going to be Claws going down.
And great kill coming through from Alliance. So Alliance needs a miracle here as they're quite behind, not horribly behind overall, as Alliance currently with 26 points in about 8th place, I believe, 8th or 9th. So really, teams like Alliance at 26, Nasty Strafe Dell, Click Esports at 31, Ad Hoc Gaming at 32, Virtus Pro at 35. Well, guess what? Gambit has 59 and CHMK has 60. So if these teams want even a chance, they need to slay out. It's their only option. And I'm not sure if they recognize that. They're probably smashing the refresh button on Liquipedia, trying to understand where they're at in the standings. I hope they recognize they have to play incredibly aggressive. Meanwhile, CHMK and Gambit, they just got to survive. And it looks like both teams are still alive, setting us up for a crazy finish here in Game 5.
Exactly that, and they're playing towards the north side of the map, both of them right now. One in Skyhook, and we saw the other kind of rotating up through the northeast right now. They are trying their best to avoid as many fights as possible, because remember, 1 point separates them at all, and that means you gotta make sure you get your placement points along with KP in the end there, as it looks like the fight will get cleaned up by Alliance here in the tunnel.
And it looks like Alliance. We just called them out and said they have to go huge. They just picked up 6 straight kills. Looks like they have another third party that's coming their way, and they recognize it. It's going to be Gambit. As Gambit going to take out Na'Vi for starters, but Alliance is just down the tunnel there.
Yeah, surprising, because I thought Alliance were taking that fight against Na'Vi, but no, there was just the last member here. Digital going to work out well for Hardeki here, although he's not able to land on his shots. And now this is where Gambit have to make a decision. Do they want to try and go for this KP, or do they just want to hold this position outside of the camp right now? Alliance, though, they're one of those teams that aren't comfortably in the top 2, and they want to get as many kill points as possible. But are they? Do they know that it's Gambit out here that they would be facing off against?
Here we go, Alliance in a crazy position. Already has 6 kills. They need to go big in this game. Let's go ahead and jump on board with our former champions, Alliance, going against the former champions, Gambit, with a listen-in right now.
Kör över!
Akta!
Kör över bara!
Ja, jag springer över.
Jag är på väg!
Akta, den pikar dig, Hakis.
Jag är lugn, pika i rummet.
Comeback!
Låga, väldigt låga!
Jag pushar.
Klockan 2!
De below!
Bakom! Är kvar! Håll bara! Jag håller dig!
Det är kun Rafe!
Hon är död! Ja, bra, jag håller ner. Kom igen, gubbar!
Wow.
Håller med nu.
Så de inte dö!
And what a time to jump into a listen-in with Alliance on the brink of elimination and with a mountain to climb right now as they are in 8th place. We'll see if they can continue to roll. They have 9 kills, I believe, to their name already as we're taking a look at the standings right now and showing you in this game which teams are still alive. VP is another one of them that's currently in 3rd place, but again, each team is so significantly behind CHMK and Gambit. You got to think if those two teams can just stay alive, they'll put themselves in a great spot.
But Gambit is out, and so that almost cements CHMK's victory here, unless a team like an Alliance have an absolutely insane game here. CHMK, they just need to make sure they make it. They made it into the top 15. The higher they can get in placements, that would be huge for them to try and cement this. But Alliance, they know that they need a big standout performance, which is why you saw a difference in the kind of stance they took in that fight. They played super aggressive, even though they're a team that want to rely upon getting that Caustic into the late game. They know that these early game fights, these early game kill points is what's going to separate them from the rest of the pack at this point. They want to break into the top 3. They might even have an opportunity with a huge game here to make it into the top 2. If they can take out CHMK, if someone can take out CHMK, there's even an opportunity to take first place away from them.
Yeah, but CHMK is so perfectly positioned right now. They're going to make it incredibly hard to do so. This is the same building structure on the Lava City side of the map that we've seen teams time and time again hold and maintain. CHMK currently has the best position and the best building in the game really to maintain defense, but we'll see if the ring ends up on them and how things shake out. Back on board of Alliance here. The story continues. They find another team. They have 9 right now. They want to make it 12. They're going to get some good shots in, and they're not done yet. So even with this caustic team and this composition that is predominantly defensive, they're playing like they have a Bangalore almost on their squad, and ultra aggressive. Great kills and shots getting put in so far from Alliance.
Unfortunate for IPN there as he tried to throw out his nade, his ultimate. There is a Watson ultimate here that stopped him out as Hawk is now on the outside of the bubble going in, takes out the knock onto Zipeth and Kuya going down.
Well, guess what? That's going to be another 3 kills coming through for Alliance, and this time the enemy is Ad Hoc Gaming, a team that we know is incredibly skilled individually. Alliance are taking down the Titans one by one. First Gambit, now Ad Hoc Gaming. You could hardly believe what we're seeing right now from this Alliance squad, but again, they are behind by 30-plus points. They need to continue if they want a chance at first. At this point, they're playing for third or second. We'll see if anyone can shut down this CHMK squad.
This is absurd. You very rarely see in these top lobbies a team already cresting double digits in kills by this point in the game. I mean, it's round number 2 closing, and half the lobby's already dead. This is not a pace that we're used to seeing. Definitely not in EU at all. And now Alliance really want to try and break that top 3 position here.
Yeah, you're spot on. This is a pace we're not used to seeing in general, in Apex, let alone in EU, as mentioned. Usually, it's so important to play for position, but we started to see, it's almost like each online tournament, the meta's shifting, because people are recognizing, hey, these kill points are pretty serious. These kill points make a difference, and that's been true in this online tournament. The teams that have had huge games, CHMK, Gambit, have gotten the kill points and have put themselves in a position to win, alongside placements being important, but you love to see the early aggression, and this is the style of Apex that is fun to cast, fun to watch, and of course, fun to play.
And we had a sighting of VP there, and I like that VP now are actually taking the rotation through the left-hand side, going through the valley instead of the tunnel there. They saw a lot of teams dying, and I don't think you want to try and take on Alliance right now. They have to know that they're up there, and so they're going to try and avoid that fight. A team that might not be able to avoid this next fight, though, is going to be North, who's making the rotation through the east-hand side, and we'll see if another Titan will clash up against Alliance at this point.
Yeah, we all know what North is capable of. I'm interested to see if that fight goes down. Meanwhile, CHMK under some pressure as they're currently on the 3rd floor. A team on the 2nd floor right beneath them. Just going to kind of watch for it. Slowly but surely misses that Peacekeeper shot, but not done yet. They're currently pretty low in shield, so if a team recognizes that, they can get taken advantage of. They all know how good CHMK is, though. It doesn't even matter what shield they have because they hit so many shots. They play so well as a team. It doesn't make a huge difference. We'll see what happens to CHMK as they're currently just going to post this one up and play a little stalemate. Meanwhile, on board of Click. Big fight going down between Click Esports and one other squad. Not sure who it is just yet. First Peacekeeper shot's going to come through. Another 130 damage in 2 shots. Make it 190. He's not done yet. Taxi, who's been one of our few players to drop 5+ kills in 2 games, I believe, has been dominating right now in this last 30 seconds.
The HMK are getting pushed now, and it's going to be Sanya to go down first.
I can hardly believe it. CHMK in a rough spot. Ronnie's going to get tagged up as well, but they're going to manage to somehow, some way clutch up. LG is the team underneath them, and the revive's going to come through thanks to the Watson fences. They should be in a good enough position to get a revive. LG almost just rained on the parade of this team. They're still trying to go for it.
And the line's getting killed. He was making sure.
Currently on board, watching rugby. Jamerson had to take a break right there with how insane this game has been. Click's going to get some kills. VP's getting some kills at the top right of your screen. Keep an eye on that. Click's not done yet, and things are finally going to slow down here towards the building as LG has to retreat.
Yeah, Rugby was able to really just slow down that push, which was important to get Sanya back into that, and so they'll be able to take out LG there as we're back on board with Click. Looks like the fight did dissipate, and they were able to win this out, and they'll be able to get the res onto Baker.
Yep, so Click lives to fight another day here and survive. They're currently in Storm, though, and that Storm's going to tag them up quite a bit. VP in a great spot. They're going to get a nice deal to hit a beacon, get some great intel. That's going to be pretty huge for them, and they know exactly where the next ring is going to be. Guess what? Only 2 teams there so far. Tunnels will separate. Alliance still alive. And by the way, Alliance has at least 12 to 15 kills, and there's still 8 teams and 24 players remaining. It's hard to believe they can do the unthinkable because they really needed a huge game, and X-Crow crowd CHMK is still alive. We'll see if they can sneak in potentially to that second place finish if CHMK stays alive.
This is very much becoming that case where it might just be a play for second, but that is huge for Alliance at this point now. As Click, it looks like they lost one on this rotation here. It was going to be CHMK, it looks like, that were playing the gatekeepers up against them. Taking a look, I believe with the circle pulling over towards that northern respawn beacon, this is a circle that most teams are very familiar with, and that's why Alliance were able to hold that position. And so we'll see if they can pick up more kills off of that. Again, they need a monstrous game. They've already started it off well. North, though, taking the fight up against VP.
Yeah, good shots. A good first down's going to come in from North. We'll see if they continue to play. It looks like they're just going to leave Taylor for dead. They have to. Only option here. They have to hit kind of a rotation. They have to survive. They're going to get tagged up quite a bit as well. I wonder who it is. Alliance is in the area somewhere. Taylor somehow got up, I believe, if I saw that correctly. CHMK, in their same little fortification, they're just going to maintain position here. And it's crazy to believe that just moments ago, LG, the team that we fell in love with in Poland, with how great Estesu plays, she's been a phenomenal impact on this scene. Of course, alongside Xens and Insania, but they were not able to take out CHMK. Now we're aboard a Click.
Yeah, so CHMK are just going to play gatekeeper here, but throughout all that, it looked like North was able to pick up one more kill onto Pija. Taylor's still bleeding out here, and he's actually able to crawl over to his teammate, and Noth will be able to get that res onto him. So they're still in this for now, RVT, but as we're back on board once again with Click here, they're trying to stop CHMK. CHMK need to make sure they get rid of this threat quickly here, because they're on the bad side of the circle. Their rotation path is not an easy one.
And it looks like Click, instead of gatekeeping, is just going to opt for a rotation. So that could have been huge for the grand scheme of things if they would have maintained that gatekeeping, since they had them on the brink and on the wall of the ring. Instead, they back out and reset. So Pierre is dead for Virtus Pro, currently on board with Rugby. He's tagged up. They're going to have to heal up. And they, look at that ring here. He's wondering, he's hoping, he's praying that he's somehow in the ring. But if he goes for this, he's really taking a gamble, is CHMK. We'll see if they decide to stay there. But it's going to be Click that's still there.
Yeah, both teams are going to die. Neither team survived this at all. And it's about just trying to get some extra KP, especially for CHMK, but they will get cleaned up and they go down. Never mind. Sanya's still alive for now, but he should bleed out soon. There it is. They will go down, but they pick up a few along the way. Will it be enough to secure that first place, though? We still have to play out the rest of this game, as Alliance has been on a tear.
Yeah, I believe Alliance is still alive. North is as well. SJP2 currently knocked, going to get taken out. That's going to be 4 squads remaining. Alliance gets a kill as we say that. It's Vapes. Let's see what Hockey & Co. can do. RPR is the last alive for North. 2 teammates down. He's going to get himself a nice Evo shield, though. That's 125 shield to his name. So RPR might be in a position to revive and stay alive. Meanwhile, Hockey's gets another kill. Alliance continues their absolute massacre as they are out with a vengeance here in this game. And now the target is Lazarus.
Lazarus stuck between a rock and, well, the ring at the back now, and their only way they can push forward is into these caustic barrels. Alliance have such a great position. Take a look at how much space they're taking up on the map. If you can look at the minimap right now, there are barrels everywhere covering every entrance here. They're making sure that their back is clear, their front is clear, and they're going to be able to pick up every single kill here. There's only 2 squads remaining, 2 players for Lazarus, along with the 2 players for North, I believe. 4 more KP for Alliance to try and pick up.
And guess what? 3v2v2. Alliance has the numbers advantage. North, though, obviously with some good shield to their name. So both North and Lazarus have to clutch up here with a man disadvantage if they want to win this one. Jay Savage and Roger Bodger, all eyes on you. You're closest to Alliance, but I love how Alliance just kind of, rather than pushing this 3v2, they recognize, hey, we don't want to be the team to get third party in this scenario. They backed out of this scenario and they reset, which they didn't know where North was. If they had that intel, I wonder if they would have taken that fight. Instead, they make the textbook decision. Smart call, as Alliance needs the first place finish. They want to try and get second here. Let's see if Alliance can continue to run.
They got to be careful with this board play, because as you saw, the barrel going straight down on it right now. Alliance will go ahead and back away and let these 2 teams funnel in on each other. Again, they have the positioning. This is where they set up early game now. As you see, Lazarus is barely in on the circle here. No, they got to creep forward, and now they have no cover.
It's going to be North, though, that gets the first kill, so Alliance wants each of these if they can get it. Hockey's going to down one. Here comes the final fight. It's North versus Alliance. A 3 versus 2. Hockey's going to put himself in a bad spot. They're going to get a first kill. 2 squads remain. And it's a 3 versus 1 fight. You got to think the Alliance Cinderella story continues as they should be able to clutch this one out. Last member alive, the digital threat's going to help. Hockey's has the comms. The ping comes through, and Alliance is your champion for game number 5. What a finish that was to the best online tournament we have seen so far in Europe. Wow.
That was absolutely insane. Not only because, of course, Alliance had a huge frag game, but the names that they were taking down along the way. It was literally everyone in front of them. And so they got rid of their main opponents early on. They had a great position. They controlled so much space there in the north. It's surprising that they lost out on 1 kill point in the end. We'll see if that does make a difference, and it might, especially with how close these games have been.
Yeah, that's incredibly true. You said they controlled their space. Well, guess what? They controlled their fate as well, as they took out Gambit right away. And I was so listening to that listening, which was beautiful, that I didn't even see it was Gambit. So that's a huge 3 kills on Gambit that they got as the second team. And it's almost like they had a hit list. They were the mob out for purpose, as they were just checking off team after team after team. And Alliance ended up with at least 19 kills, I believe, is the total, as I'm peeking over my shoulder here. That is a huge performance for Alliance, and you got to wonder if it's going to be enough. What an insane finish to game number 5. Jamerson, any final thoughts on your end?
No, I'm just absolutely so happy with how the games played out today. Everyone, you could see, just left it all out on the field, especially in that final game there. They knew what was on the line, and they knew that they had to have a monstrous performance, which is why we got to see so much early game aggression. Usually by the end of third ring, we'll have 45 players left. That's kind of the pace. But by the end of the second ring, we had half the lobby alive. And so that does really sell home the point, how quick these teams were playing, how aggressive these teams were playing in the early game.
Yeah, that's spot on. Well said. That's going to be it for us on the casting desk. There is a crazy finish, and we don't know. It's a little uncertain right now if Alliance had enough to overtake Gambit, maybe CHMK, who got 5th or 6th place, to break it all down and to present the results of our online tournament. Let's go ahead and throw it back to our analysts. It's Hodzik and Rainday.
Thanks so much, guys. Rainday and Hanzik here for the final analyst portion of this OT5 for Europe. North America coming up after this, but what a performance from all of these teams. I mean, honestly, Hanzik, we could talk about literally any of our top 5 teams to watch. We could talk about any of the top 5 teams that end up being in this overall leading standings that we'll see in just a moment on your screen at length, because they all played really, really well at different moments. But this last game, I mean, it was all Alliance, man, from the very start with those 2 gold shields and that Evo shield.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what, when you have these top heavy point situations, the teams that are not at the top are more likely to take risks, you know? Like in the past EU tournaments, if everybody in the top 5 is within like 10 points, nobody's going to take a big risk. I think Alliance entered that game in 8th place. They knew what they had to do. They knew they had to frag out the lobby. They got a couple kills quick, a lot of loot early on, and they knew we just got to kill everybody.
And that's one of those things that makes, you know, this really exciting. We were looking at Gambit, but they went down early, and that was because of Alliance pushing them and winning that fight. That changed Gambit's tournament, because it really essentially said there's no way you can overtake CHMK now. It's now Alliance or Virtus Pro who have the opportunity to do so. You got to about 8 squads. Virtus Pro ended up falling down as well in those final skirmishes heading into that top 3. And then you ended up having Alliance pretty much clearing out the lobby themselves. To the aggressor went the spoils today, and Alliance, what a final finish that, you know, starting at 8th place in game number 4, had a chance to really move through, especially with plays like this in that final moment, just pushing together with such cohesion and I think trust. You know, we talk about it, a bad plan executed well, it's better than a good plan executed poorly. This wasn't a bad plan at all, but they all were on the same page today. Absolutely.
And Jamerson brought up a good point with the minimap there. IPN did such a good job. You saw almost, like, I mean, you saw so much open real estate in the entire game. So many teams were dead before they should have been. But IPN did a really good job securing the entire perimeter, and they were the only team that was in on that last circle. So all they had to do was wait it out for the last 2 teams to send it on each other. I believe it was North and the leftovers of Lazarus. North knew they're not going to kill Alliance. So I could tell that they just made the call, go for Lazarus, take as many points away from Lazarus as they can, and just play for second place. And that's exactly what they did. Beautiful job by IPN to secure the entire area around with Caustic and with the area denial.
Are you telling me North intentionally became the meat in the sandwich, Hotstick? Is that what you're telling me here?
Sometimes when sometimes when you have the wherewithal to know that you can't win, sometimes you just got to be the meat.
You just got to accept it, right? You know what?
Yeah.
Hey, this is going to be worse than trying to fight to be this bread. I'm just going to be the meat. You guys go ahead and enjoy. I'm out of this one. North, they knew they were fighting against a team that was a little bit too equipped here, but let's take a look at what that equipment did. We have our Game 5 results ready for you to bring up on screen right now, and oh my God, the biggest game of the day by far, 31 points for Alliance, Hotstick. That is pretty unprecedented. That might be the highest score total we've seen in a single Apex Legends game, with 19 kills as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what they needed to do. And
wow.
That is a game 5 right there. And that's how much the game changes per game depending on how many points you have. And that's one little nuance of Battle Royale I think is actually really exciting from the viewing standpoint. So absolutely, hats off to Alliance. Really well done.
Now, remember, when you look at it, Alliance, they ended up being in, I believe, 8th place or so with about 26 points heading into this one. It is going to make for some very, very interesting conversation, especially looking at Virtus Pro and Gambit. Those two teams, because of their performance already, had really cemented, I think, their positions within the top 3. But can Alliance push their way into the top 3 from 8th to 3rd? Even maybe top 2? These are the questions we're going to be asking when these overall standings are ready to be brought up. And here they are, Alliance. So close. They are 4 points away from Gambit, who are in the 2nd place position, and they are 10 points away from 1st, but it is Alliance go to number 3. Gambit takes 2nd place, and a big congratulations to CHMK, who are your overall winners of OT number 5 for this Apex Legends Global Series. What a performance across all the games today from each one of those teams that have not only made the top 5, but that are especially in the top 3.
Absolutely. And you know CHMK was celebrating as soon as they saw Alliance take out Gambit pretty early on, because they knew at that point, they had the tournament pretty much hand-delivered to them. All they had to do was stay alive, make sure they just put some points on the board, 5 or 6, just to be safe, and they knew they had the win. I'm sure they were probably celebrating really hard. Congratulations to CHMK. And Gambit, and well fought by Alliance as well. Really just an overall exciting tournament.
Yeah, I mean, really great. You know, Virtus Pro, they definitely stepped up towards the later rounds. They got pushed back. They were only 3 points in that final game. And, you know, with Alliance having such a huge game and Click as well, it allowed them to kind of move into 3-4 position, bump Virtus Pro to 5th. Natsuki, Strafe, and Dell, I think, had great performances. You saw Ad Hoc Gaming really pop off in some of these. And because of that, you saw some individual star-studded performances, which is going to lead us to our overall player kills leaderboard, which we are going to have here. It's going to be CLQ Taxi, who is making some insane grapple peacekeeper plays, by the way, all tournament long. He is the top with Rugby as well from CHMK. Congratulations, though, to those two. Vapes, though, on Alliance, representing number 3. I'm sure that last game had something to do with it. And Hakas, he gets himself in top 5 as well, with CLQ Yuki in the number 4 spot, rounding out the top 5.
And it goes to show you with Taxi, obviously really well done, amazing job by him. It goes to show you that you don't need to keep putting up crazy games. CHMK only put up, I think, a win in the first game and like a really high point win. And then after that, they just coasted and they just kept putting up, made sure they got 8 to 10 points a game, and they're that's all it takes, really. One good game, and then just make sure you're constantly being consistent. And that's evidence right there.
Yeah, I mean, these teams in Europe surprised us today. I mean, you know, I think you and me, as well as the viewers, are probably surprised. North America is the team, you know, I guess the amalgamation of teams that we look at to be more aggressive and have less teams in these final zones than in Europe, who's more patient. There's more camping, and we did see a little bit of that. But today, it was like something happened. I don't know whether it's everyone being inside and they need to take their aggression out. They got to get outside. They got to somehow find a way to express themselves, and it happened in game. But Europe seems to have definitely increased the pace of their fights. They seem to overall have increased the willingness to be a little bit more aggressive, take risks, Hotstick. And how do you think that's played in helping these European teams to have success in this tournament? And how do you think maybe that's hurt some of these teams who maybe didn't have the performances we thought that they would have?
I think that it helps the teams that are especially more mechanically gifted, so to speak, because at the end of the day, battle royales aren't, everybody at this level can hit their shots, but it's the ones that can really hit their shots when it counts or when it matters that counts the most. So you see this when it starts to be less brain and more aim when it comes to these really, really high intense, high kill games. And I think you see that in the top 3 for sure. All these players are very consistent. They're very cracked, if you will, mechanically.
Cracked. I like it.
Yeah, that's
facts,
what all the
facts.
kids say.
Yeah.
So these high kill games tend to lead towards the guys that are able to hit their shots more frequently, and it shows. So well done.
Well done indeed. I mean, overall, we've seen a fantastic performance. Again, a big shout out to CHMK coming in first here. And this is a big moment for them because they are one of these teams that kind of exploded onto the scene as far as a lot of people's identity who are just casually watching today. All the pros know each other. They know the players that are good, but we haven't seen CHMK winning tournaments in these OTs. And now we finally have a chance to see them really show what they're capable of. And this might just be the beginning. So orgs, look out. Players, look out. There is a new top dog here, at least for today, in Europe, and they definitely deserve that spot. And, I think we're looking at how do you be involved as well? How can you, as a player, get yourself involved in Apex Legends? Well, the online tournament is coming up in May 19th. That's when the open, I believe, registration starts. If you want to register, go to battlefy.com/ALGS. So battlefy.com/ALGS. You guys can register. You guys can be involved. You all can take part in this and maybe have a moment where, you don't have to have an org. You could be great Apex Legends players or want to give your try at it and definitely see how much hard work and effort it takes to get to this position that these players have today. My hat's off to everybody who's competed in Hansik. You know better than anybody how much work it takes, but how rewarding it is when you finally do succeed here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we only show the finals, but you got to keep in mind that they play 12 games to get here. So it's not just the best of the best show up and they play it out. Every team earned it. They grinded through, and I do want to give a special shout out to Gambit as well because I feel like they're definitely on the more underrated side. They're not talked about all that often, but they've really shown up in the past couple of tournaments and they're making a name for themselves as definitely one of the most dominant EU teams. So special hats off to them. Their ability to play consistently in an environment with such good teams around them is impressive, very impressive.
I mean, definitely stars in the making. And, we spent so much time in these onlines kind of wondering who was going to show up. And at first, it was a lot of the teams from Poland. But as the meta's developed and we've seen other teams kind of have a chance to practice and see really who's in it, who's in it for, that LAN vibe, who's really in it and who's grinding and putting the hours. We started to see these other teams now start to take this limelight. CHMK, Gambit, Alliance, they are really holding down Europe as the best teams right now from what we've seen in these last 2 online plays. And I have to give a shout out to the play of the day. And I think you guys all know what it was. It was that Gambit moment that they took a little bit of a risk here, fell off the roof, and had a chance to grapple and find themselves just a few places ahead. Not just few, a lot of places ahead here. From about 7th to, I think, 2nd or 3rd. Let's take a look at it. Our play of the day in Europe. What a great showcase of how they really gave everything to find such a good performance today.
Absolutely. What was really impressive here, they're just trying to stop the team from rotating, but out of nowhere, all of a sudden they notice actually climbs up on them from behind. So North is actually screws up their rotation and is the catalyst to this play. Downing 2 of them, and then you see Leon with the longest grapple in Apex history. And then zipline dancing, and a lot of people at home are probably like, oh, you guys can hear him, why don't you just shoot him? It's really, for the players that are down on the ground, it's an impossible situation. If you stop to shoot him, all the teams that are going to take advantage of you being distracted get free damage on you. If you don't shoot him, then he's going to get a lot of points up there. It's a really tough situation. Big heads-up play and an incredible way to basically salvage the tournament. They don't get second without this play. They would have missed out on at least 10 points, I think. So they don't get second without this play. So massive play from Liagri coming out.
So fun to watch that, man. Obviously, the play ends immediately when he lets go. I mean, he dies almost instantly, but He had a great moment up there. And you could tell when that was happening, I'm sure when he was seeing all those teams fall, when he was going over 6th place, 5th place, 4th place, 3rd place, boys, what am I doing here? And they were all just hyped. And you could see it very, very excited about what was happening here. So, Gambit, again, made great plays. Alliance made great plays. We saw so many different players have success. And there are a lot of tweets that you guys have been tweeting at me, at Hansik, at ALGS, using hashtag ALGS. And so we're going to bring them up. I want to see some fire tweets right now, Hansik. I want to read some great tweets. Give me the spice. Tommy Cooper, 44, he says, Global Series by Apex Legends is the best. Hashtag ALGS, at Play Apex. Thank you, Respawn. Hashtag stay and play. My man knew how to get on broadcast. He used all the right hashtags. He had all the right tags. Congrats, Tommy Cooper. Thanks for that, man. All right, been a minute since I saw such an aggressive EU tournament. Crazy. Hashtag ALGS. He definitely, I think, showcased a lot of our thoughts in today's games as well. These games got me on the edge of my seat. Hashtag ALGS, Play Apex, Apex Legends, Justin Venter. Thanks a lot, Justin, for hanging out and watching the broadcast as well and tweeting at us. The EU hashtag ALGS today was sick. Caustic is looking like an amazing anti-meta pick for teams. Jamer J's on Twitter. Thank you guys so much for hanging in, watching, and engaging with us. And again, if you guys want to do it, make sure to use the hashtag ALGS for this broadcast, which is about to end. But of course, the North American broadcast, which is coming up very, very soon. And for all things Apex, make sure to follow at Play Apex on our socials, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Twitch. You guys can stay involved with everything that we're doing and know when we're going live, when cool stuff is dropping. Hansik, they talk about Caustic being the anti-meta pick. He's clearly successful. He's clearly done well in 3 tournaments now in Europe at the highest level. You said you might see him in North America. Are we going to see him later on today?
I'm thinking so. Maybe I know there are some teams that are trying to run him.
Okay.
If not this tournament, depending on how the Season 5 patch notes turn out, I think you might see a little bit more Caustic in NA region, but for different reasons, not necessarily the same as EU.
And that's going to make our next tournament that much more exciting, right? Because it's not even that you have, a chance like 2 weeks to basically space out the tournament and have a little more practice. You're going to have a chance to actually play a whole new meta potentially, because Season 5 is coming out on May 12th. And so you're going to get new characters, new patch notes, all that cool stuff. So I cannot wait to see that one. Definitely have to stay tuned. All right, guys, we are getting ready to close out today, but I do want to say thank you to everyone who's been involved, from all of our crew, all of our production, and of course, everyone behind the scenes who's helped direct this broadcast and bring everybody together, from the equipment to the organizational thought process behind it. To all the viewers as well watching from home, and of course, all of my lovely peers, my casters, my talent. I think I'm going to go ahead and wave to us. You got Fallout and Jamerson there on screen. You got Brav and Onset as well. And of course, my name is Rain Day, and I'm joined by none other than the GOAT of Apex himself. That's right, gave him the title right now, Hansik. So great to have you on these broadcasts, man.
Thank you. I mean, they're really fun. I do, watching them makes me miss playing, absolutely. But being here and being an asset to the broadcast team, and a lot of the kind messages I've been getting from people after the first tournament really make it all worth it. I'm just glad people are enjoying watching Apex more. So. Really, really happy to be proud of it.
Hey, man, it's a game we all love. We're all proud of it. That's why we're involved. So I appreciate you coming on. We're really excited and privileged to have you, and everyone else who's been involved. That's going to do it for Europe today. Congratulations to CHMK, who take OT number 5 for this ALGS. But stay tuned. We still got question marks and competition coming up at 5:45 p.m. today Pacific time for North America. We will see you there for that one. And remember, never give up, never stop gaming. We'll see you next time.